Good morning, everyone. Today I'm going to talk about a novel written by a great writer, established writer. We all know that him, Charles Dickens. The title of the novel is Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. And as I have always told you that, and let me start with the background regarding this novel and as well as a little biographical details about Charles Dickens. And let me start with a brief introduction to the author or the novelist. And since this is a novel, it had brought in name, fame, everything. And scholarly, especially, it's considered as a scholarly novel, and most of the scholars and critics they worked on it. And let us know what is there in this particular novel and what are the things Charles Dickens is going to talk about, or what he wanted to portray during his time, or what was the things he wanted to tell. So scholars generally agree that Charles Dickens wrote two novels with clear autobiographical elements, and even some of the critics are of the view that even this novel cannot so be called as an autobiographical novel. Okay, let me see what kind of let us know what kind of autobiographical elements one one could find in this novel. Then David, especially two novels of Charles Dickens can be considered as autobiographical novels. One is Great Expectation, and another is David Copperfield. Okay, then Great Expectations. Since I'm talking about Great Expectations, it was penned down or penned in 1860 to 61, and Dickens, who was born in Portsmouth and spent his early years in Chatham, Kent, and his parents John and Elizabeth are preserved for us in the characters Mr. and Mrs. Copperfield. So even he could what portray the characters exactly in the novel David Copperfield. So how John Dickens was a Navy clerk, his father was a Navy clerk, and because of his financial problems, and he not only his father but the whole family had to suffer because of the penury condition. So next, Charles, at the age of 12, he had to work in a boot blacking factory. Okay, even he had to work as a child laborer. So he had to work in a boot blacking factory, and such early rode in him a deep concern about society's evils. Okay, social evils. And in his books, especially in his novels, he is focusing, or he might have focused more evils what he had to undergo and when he was a small boy. So Charles later, fortunately, an inheritance enabled John to be released because he went bankrupt. He had to be imprisoned, and luckily or fortunately, somebody helped him to come out of the prison. And then subsequently, Charles attended the Wellington House Academy later, and he became an office boy for attorney in 1827, and quickly progressing to court, reporting in Doctors' Commons, a society of three lawyers akin to the Inns of Court. And here we could see that Dickens gained valuable experience as a parliamentary journalist and also experimented with so many sketches. Okay, each of his novels, especially he went moved novels, each of his novels was published in a serial installments before appearing in three volumes. One is the Picnic Papers, which was published in 1836, then which brought success as well as some financial support or security for Charles Dickens. In 1836, again a very important event took place in his life. Dickens married Catherine Hogarth, and the couple had 10 children. However, in his 40s, he became deeply attracted to a young actress named Nellie Turner, and separated from his wife in 1858. This is not so important, but just for your information. Then Dickens' other novels, as far as career or what a literary, his contribution to literature, his other novels were Art, other Oliver Twist, published in 1837, Nicholas Nickleby, 38, The Old Curiosity Shop, 1840, and Barnaby Rudge, 1841, and A Christmas Carol, 1843, Dombey and Son, 1846, and David Copperfield, as I have already mentioned, this novel, 1849, Bleak House, 1852, and Great Expectation. What we are going to discuss today about this novel, Great Expectation, which was published in 1860. So, this is the brief introduction regarding our author. Okay, then regarding the story of this what author or of this novel, we should have something. Even it has some impact. The society also has a greater impact on him. While he was portraying or while he was narrating a story and writing a novel. And Dickens' success or his success as an author or a novelist led to the purchase of house at Gad Hills in Chatham, and he wrote A Great Expectation against a backdrop of places he knew from his childhood. That's what the critics are of the opinion that Great Expectation as well as David Copperfield can be considered as autobiographical novels of Charles Dickens. Okay, hope you are all following me. And he wrote Great Expectation against a backdrop of the places where he brought up. Got it? The chronology of the novel covers 1820 to 1840. The narrator, here in this novel, we have a narrator, the protagonist of the novel. Protagonist means he has to be the central narrator as well as he is the central character and who narrates us the story. So the narrator, Philip Perry, known as Pip. Okay, no need to remember. You should remember. This is for your information. If you call him as Pip, it's okay. Full name is Philip Hill, and he is known as Philip Hill, known as Pip. Recalls his upbringing by his severe sister, very strict sister, and her genial husband, blacksmith Joe Gargery. Okay, two important characters. One is with the central character as well as the protagonist. Then he was brought up by his sister and brother-in-law Joe Gargery. He is a blacksmith, and that too in a marsh country. This is the term you should be remember when you start answering your questions in your examinations. So, as Dickens had lived near the Kent marshes, and he was able to convey the scenes convincingly. So, the central character it situates when the novel opens. He tells us that where he was born in a country called in the Marsh country. The early part of the novel is set during a period when prisoners were sometimes kept in ships called hulls, okay, then moored in rivers. So the stunning opening sequence, the opening scene is very interesting. This is also sometimes you may get it for 5 marks. The opening scene of the Great Expectation, okay, the beginning of the novel, like that. So this, we have a stunning opening sequence which takes place in a graveyard on a memorable raw afternoon towards evening. Got it? He mentions like this. So the young Pip, aged around 6 to 7 years, encounters an escaped convict. His name is Abel Magwitch. See, he is also one of the major characters in the novel. So this is a quite common features or characteristics of Dickens' novel, where he portrays so many characters. His novels have many characters, many important characters. So Pip is a central character. Joe Gargery is also a very important character, though his sister plays a minor role. And Abel Magwitch, this is also a very important character, one of the major characters. So in that afternoon, he encounters an escaped convict named Abel Magwitch. Later, he becomes his benefactor in when Pip wanted to be a gentleman. Okay, so later on, Pip procures food and a file for him because Abel Magwitch, he is a convict. No, he threatens this small boy, saying that if you don't get me food and file to open his car, then I'll eat your little fingers, like that. It's quite common. No, small children they scared of strangers, and the two when this stranger is threatening him like this, then imagine his what would be his plight. So Pip finally he is successful to procure food and file for the convict. Although the convict is recaptured and transported to Australia, he never forgets the boy. So a local recluse, the eccentric Miss Havisham, this is also one of the important characters you should know. The eccentric Miss Havisham summons Pip to pay visits to Satis house. See, this Satis house is also very important because this is the place where Miss Havisham lives with her adopted daughter Estella. Got it? So Satis house, you may get it for short what were short questions for 5 marks. Pay visits to Satis house. Then she is like some ghastly wax work at the fair, or a skeleton in the ashes of a rich dress. This is how people narrates him or compares Miss Havisham to these two. So in his eyes, she looks like some ghastly wax work at the fair. You know the meaning of it. Or a skeleton in the ashes of a rich dress. So Pip is entranced by her bard, an ice maiden called Estella, who embarrasses who used to humiliate him, embarrasses him profoundly by disdainfully denouncing him as coarse and common. So when Pip is old enough, Miss Havisham pays for him to be apprenticed as a blacksmith. Unexpectedly, he receives further sponsorship from a mystery benefactor, and he thought that might be Miss Havisham. But later we come to know that benefactor is none other than the first convict whom he had to meet in the graveyard. Okay, then for him he procured food and fine, no, the same benefactor. So a lawyer named Jaggers, and he has interviewed information about Pip's future, and he says like that. Just to quote a few lines from the text, I'm instructed to communicate to him that he will come into a handsome property. Further, that it is the desire of the present possessor of the property that he be immediately removed from his present sphere of life and from this place and be brought up as a gentleman. In a word, as a young fellow of great expectations. This scene occurs in chapter 18, where Mr. Jaggers he talks about and Pip's future, saying that some mystery benefactor is sponsoring Pip to be a gentleman. So moving from the Kent marshes to London, see this can also be this novel is a very best example for building Roman novel. Okay, that is a different genre or is a different set of novel, writing a novel. So this is a building Roman novel because it talks about the development of the character. Okay, and from the beginning till the end, there is a drastic change in it and even his lifestyle, in his regarding his education, qualification, and the standard of living, everything matters a lot. So this novel can be considered as a building Roman novel. So, moving from the Kent marshes to London, Pip now aspires to the status of a gentleman and improves himself by acquiring certain skills and attitudes. In fact, though he was born in a middle class family, no, lower middle class, not a middle class family, right? And he was brought up by a blacksmith, his brother in law. So, I'm in the boy who was being born in that family and who doesn't want to become a blacksmith like his brother-in-law. Instead, he wanted to be a gentleman, like how Maud Flanders wanted to be a gentle lady, right? So even he wanted to be a gentleman. So he wanted to acquire some certain skills, and at the same time, he wanted to he just moved to he just wanted to be a gentleman who lives in very posh lands, or what we can say, he wanted to enjoy all the luxurious luxurious way of life by situating in London. And just he wanted to move away from his small country. In his own words, it's a marshland, land of marshes. Okay, so moving from that place to London is not a joke. All these things, and even a minute details, the way it narrates us, this is very important. So from from a small boy who lives in what a blacksmith's house, and to be a gentleman, it requires effort, great effort, sacrifice, and everything. So all these things we could able to find in Pip, and his dedication, his commitment, and he is so much focused in his life. So moving from the Kent marches to London, Pip now aspires to the status of a gentleman and improves himself by acquiring certain skills and attitudes. Unfortunately, he also becomes snobbish about his roots and failing to appreciate those who love him most. Joe and Biddy. Joe, his brother-in-law, Biddy, his childhood friend, and later she gets married to Joe, his own brother-in-law. Then his assumption that Miss Havisham has been his patron turns out to be mistaken, and he is shocked to learn that Magwitch has been funding him. Magwitch, who is Magwitch? He is the convict whom we meet in the very first chapter itself, who threatens a boy. No? So, indeed, the convict returns, eager to save him. Then, echoing the recapture of Magwitch early in the novel, a parallel scene takes place where the authorities give chase on the river. Dickens was so keen to convey this accurately that he hired a steamer on 22nd May 1861 to take some family members and friends from Blackwell to Southend. Okay, South End. So Pip's attitude to Magwitch changed in the course of the book. And in the beginning, Pip, he was so scared of Magwitch and he thought he's a criminal, third-rated criminal like that. But later, when he learned that he is his actual benefactor, then the thing starts changing in a different way. So Pip's attitude to Magwitch changes in the course of the book, where in chapter 54, he says, "My repugnance to him had all melted away, and in the hunted, wounded, and shackled, once again, yeah. My repugnance to him had all melted away, and in the hunted, wounded, shackled creature who held my hands in his, I only saw a man who had meant to be my benefactor, and who had felt affectionately, gratefully, and generously towards me with great constancy through a series of years. I only saw in him a much better man than I had been to Joe. So he thought Joe was his benefactor, and later Miss Havisham might be his benefactor, but his actual benefactor was the convict. So he was recalling those days for the first time when he met, and he thought he was not a good boy or man, and he is so cruel like that. But later, he himself, uh, what what we can say, he describes him like he is very affectionate, very grateful, and generous man because who have been sponsoring me for all these years to achieve my goal or to fulfill my dream, like that. So then, when Magwitch is sentenced to death, again Magwitch was taken back. Okay, he had to. He was caught up by the police, and again he was imprisoned, and he was sentenced to death. Pip stays loyal to him because at that point of time he knows, no, he comes to know that he is the real benefactor. So ultimately, he becomes a humbler, wiser, and a very kind person, realizing that what it means to be a true gentleman. Okay, then let us know the style or genre of this novel. And the writer, especially the author or the novelist, he uses dual narrative perspective. First, the first person narrative, the mature adult Pip looks back over his life, reflecting upon his experiences and making perceptive judgments about himself and others. And at the same time, his recollections of childhood are graphic and intent, somewhat like animated version. It's coming, keep coming. They're all keep coming into his minds like a graphic picture. Then drawing to the readers, and he just wanted to narrate a story in, as though we are watching a cartoons or a graphic and intense drawing. In the reader feels like that. Then young Pip's voice comes through as he describes incidents from his formative years. The novel can be classed as a bildungsroman, I have told you already, a novel of education and development. So, can you consider all the novels as a bildungsroman? No. But we can consider some particular novel as a bildungsroman only if that novel is of education and development of a character. So, however, it is important to note that Dickens blends different genres. Thus, Great Expectations combines realism, melodrama, romance, and the gothic structure, the grotesque, the fairy tale, and the comic novel. So this is somewhat like he blends all these characteristic features in his novel, so it can be called as a realistic novel, and we have a element of melodrama and romantic novel because we have what we can say, the romantic moments between, though it not a romantic moments between Pip and Estella, but the way Pip tries to propose her, or he tries to convince her, but he doesn't have that much strength or spine to go and tell her openly that I'm in love with her. So this is the problem. So somewhere we readers we feel really interesting when the scenes or episodes of Pipestella comes. So of course, and it's a gothic novel because the way Dickens has portrayed the Satis house, this is very important. So we have some more like a gothic pictures or elements while describing or while having the details of Satishouse. So the grotesque, the fairy tale, and even we have comic element. So this is the blend of, or this novel can be um, uh, a blend of all these characteristic features. So the opening scene, for example, is memorable because of this eclecticism. Okay, because of this eclecticism, we can envisage the overgrown churchyard and the gravestones and the comet's fearful figure, and the reader understands that his threats to eat the lad are amusing rather than genuine. Okay, that's what I told you. And some comic elements, and because just he wanted to threaten the child to procure him food and fight. Then the at home scene, there are please go through this novel. It's a very interesting novel, beautiful novel. One, you have to read this novel to enjoy each and every dialogues and the scenes and episodes. So the scene at home with the enduring blacksmith were intended to be comical, and if at all if we wanted to have a comic character, we can consider Joe Gargery, Pip's brother-in-law, as a very, he has such a sense of humor, and he can be considered as a comic character. And in that particular scene, at home in that episode, we can have a comical element in Joe's character. So, in the life of Charles Dickens, biographer John Foster noted that the author's explanation about Pip and Joe's relationship like this. I have made the opening, I hope in its general effect, exceedingly drawn. I have put a child and a good natured foolish man in relations that seem to me very funny. Interestingly, there are gothic nuances and links to Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, which was published in 1818. So, in chapter 40, Pip's distaste. Okay, now in chapter 40 is also very important because Pip's distaste for his benefactor marriage recall Victor Frankenstein feelings that the imaginary student pursued by the misshapen creature he had impiously made was not more wretched man I pursued by the creature who had made me, and recoiling from him with a stronger repulsion, the more he admired me and the more fonder he was to me. So here Dickens appropriates and he remarks the Frankenstein story And in uh, that book, how he compares himself to both the creator and the creature. So, as I have already told you, this novel earlier it was not published in a book form, but it was in a serialized form. Okay, so the publication of Pickwick papers, I told you this was the first publication of Charles Dickens. So, the publication of the Pickwick Papers had proved very attractive to readers, and Dickens continued to promote serialization. And Great Expectations originally came out in short installment. I told you from December 1860 to August 1861. So, in all these years and all the year round, a weekly magazine edited by Dickens. So he was writing in an installment like, and when it was issued in 3 volumes, it went through 5 editions in just 1 year. So in America, the novel was serialized in Harper's Weekly. Like while he was writing here, even we could find nowadays that web series compared to, and it is giving a challenge to cinemas like that. So in an installment, and then serialization made literary works were more affordable and readily accessible. So there were some drawbacks from an author's perspective because it was usually essential to meet rigid deadlines and to compare to the episodes of modern soap operas. So the writer has to, yeah, some network problem it may be. Yeah, I was talking about how it was characterized and how many of the characters in Great Expectation have distinct mannerism. And there were some drawbacks in, from an author's perspective when he had to serialize his novel because always they may have some deadline, and within that deadline they have to finish that work. Dickens had faced all those what hurdles while being a writer. So the separate parts of Victorian novels can be compared to the episodes of modern soap operas, and the writer has to achieve a convincing illusion of reality. And many of the characters in Great Expectations have distinctive mannerisms and verbal or physical in nature to keep them fresh in our minds. An example like how Mrs. Joe's reputation for bringing Pip up by hand. So brandishing her cane, tickler. See, actually there is a. She used to whip this small boy with a cane. Okay, that name of that cane is Tickler. This is very interesting, and she has even a cane has a name. Imagine. So the way Dickens has given a minute preference to even the minute details. Okay, the very small things or petty things are known as. So Mrs. Joe, she has a cane named Tickler. With that help, she used to whip who? Pip. So another is Jaggers. So Jaggers, another character, he washing his hands obsessively always, and at times the pressures of serialization could prove successful, stressful, and this is very important. Very comic elements we have, and but we must what must we do and what must not be. And as to the planning of from week to week and how successful Charles Dickens he become to publish this novel is very interesting. And for the surprisingly, this is the important thing you should know that the novel has two endings. Okay, the novel has two endings. Great Expectations has two conclusions: the original one and the later one. Got it? Yeah. Great Expectation. This novel has two endings. The original ending was like that. It sees Pip returning to London after a successful career and meeting Estella. And Estella, I told you, Estella was the adopted daughter for Miss Havisham. And Miss Havisham is a spinster. and I'll discuss this all these characters while I'm analyzing the characters. So just listen to me regarding the story. And I'm giving, as I have always, it's my routine or ritual work to give you a summary in a nutshell form. I'm giving you this. And Estella, she has experienced an unhappy marriage to a cruel bore, followed by widowhood, then remarriage. So he perceives that she has perceives he perceives that she has been through a great deal of suffering. And here Dickens deliberately rejects a neat, predictable denouement in which Pip and Estella find happiness together. And his friend Edward Bulwer Lytton had forced him to amend this to a more conventional outcome. Okay, got it. The first ending, the real actual ending of this novel was Pip he returns to London and meeting Estella because Estella was portrayed as a widow. Okay, and she had very unsuccessful married life, unhappy married life, so like that. But his friend, he forces him to, whose friend, Dickens' friend, Edward Lytton, he urged him to amend this to a more conventional outcome. So the later part, the last part of the novel, especially, he asked him to correct and give a little, at least please give a happy ending to this novel. So after this, and because of this, he did not want Pip to be a left solitary man. When he doesn't expect the bad ending or the, what we can say, the unhappy ending for this novel, and moreover, he did not want it to be a solitary man. Dickens duly obliged by revising the last part of the novel, and he explained his decision to John Foster in his letter. He says that Edward, who has been, as I think you know, extraordinarily taken by this book, so strongly urged it upon me to make amendments means make changes. Got it? To amend the last part of the novel. So he says he writes in his letter like this. After reading the proofs and supported his views with such good reasons that I resolved to make the change, I have put in as a little piece of writing as I could, and I have no doubt the story will be more acceptable through the alteration. The second version ends. Okay, this is the later or the latest modification. The second version ends with these words: I took her hand in mine, and we went out of the ruined place." This is the actual. This is the later what amended section of what part of the novel. Okay, then I'm just reading it out, and whatever the changes he made. I took her hand in mine. Whose her means here Estella. I Pip. So Pip took her hand in his, and we went out of the ruined place. And as the morning mist had risen long ago when I first left the forge, so the evening mists were rising now, and in all the broad expanse of tranquil light they showed to me, and I saw no shadow of another parting from her. John Foster felt that the original conclusion was more consistent with the text. So, in his introduction to Great Expectation, George Bernard Shaw, actually G.B. Shaw, he says that he was much more forthright and declaring it is too serious a book to be trivially happy with. Its beginning is unhappy, its middle is unhappy, and the conventional happy ending is an outrage on it. This is how G.B. Shaw he makes remarks on this novel. I hope all of you understood. And as this reading regarding the critical reception of this novel or analysis of this novel goes like this: this novel, it works on a number of levels as a critique of Victorian society and as an exploration of memory and writing. And however, and as even I have told you, this can be a realistic novel, this can be a psychological novel because the writer deals with the psychology of a child, right? Especially as I have told you, uh, the novel begins with the introduction of a small boy, a hero, around 6 to 7 years old boy, right? So this can be a psychological novel, and this can be a critique of Victorian society, and this can be a social novel because which upholds the society, the real society which was established in Victorian era. Got it? So, however, it is perhaps more importantly a search for true identity. During the course of the novel, Pip comes to realize that his great expectations. See, the title of the novel is also very apt title because what was Pip's great expectations? Because he wanted to be a gentleman, right? He doesn't want to be a blacksmith like his brother-in-law or some other servants or some laborers. He doesn't want to work in a factory like that, but instead he wants to live in a London as a gentleman to acquiring some other skills. So he comes to realize, Pip, the settled character, comes to realize that his great expectations, social standing, and wealth are less important than loyalty and compassion. The man or the boy who had this focus or this ambition, later part of the novel, he realizes that even loyalty and compassion is much more important than social status and wealth. So finally, Great Expectation was also noted for its blend of humor, mystery, tragedy, yeah, humor, mystery, and tragedy. So in the original ending of the work, Pip and Estella were not reunited, but later there is the modification. Okay, the latest conclusion, we could find that it has a happy ending or the reunion of Pip and Estella we could find, and that too after Dickens was persuaded to write a happier conclusion. So, hope you have understood that how the novel goes. It starts with 7-year-old Pip. He walks through a churchyard on a cold grey day before Christmas, so visiting the graves of his parents. And he lives in the marsh area of Kent, where the river Thames meets the sea. Orphaned as a boy, and he lives with his sister. What's his sister name? Georgina. Okay, who is 20 years older than him, and her husband Jude, who is a village blacksmith. So in the village, he is a village blacksmith. Suddenly, a great iron army escaped from the nearby prison ships called the Hugs. I told you Hugs earlier. The prisoners used to carry in ship. So the convict has escaped from the nearby prison ships called the nearby. He was, yeah. Then after turning Pip upside down and finding only a piece of bread, and the starving man threatens to eat his fat cheeks. This is very interesting. Then, learning that Pip lives with a blacksmith, okay, he let Pip live as long as he returns the next morning with some victuals and a file from Joe's forge, okay, to open his that iron cup. So, to further ensure Pip's health, the convict tells him that there is a young man with him who will eat his heart and liver if he fails to return. So, Pip agrees to help and then watches the man stumble away. Pip returns to his home and
ಒಂದು ವಯಸ್ಸು ಆಫ್ಲೈನ್ ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಜೋರ ಮಾತಾಡಿ
ಹೇಳ್ತಿಲ್ವಾ
ಕಾಮೆಂಟ್ ನೋಡ್ತಾನು
ಒಂದು ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಗೊತ್ತಿರಲಿಲ್ಲ.
ಕರೆಕ್ಟಾಗಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಜೋರಾಗಿದೆ ನೋಡಿ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಜೋರ ಮಾಡು
I checked my mic as well.
ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಇವಾಗ ವಾಯ್ಸ್ ಕೇಳ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಸರ್
Okay.
ಜೋರ ಮಾಡ್ಯಾ
Yeah. Maybe, one second. Maybe.
ತುಂಬ ಟೆಕ್ನಿಕಲ್ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಂಗೆ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದೆ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿದೆ
ಇಲ್ಲ, it's okay, but okay. Yeah, I'll manage. Yeah, hope you can listen me now. Listen to me now. Sorry, because of some network issues, it was not audible. It seems. And am I audible now? Can you please tell me if you finally able to catch me what I'm saying? Yeah, because I have checked my mic when it was really working. Don't know what is happening with the network. Sometimes even network issues also causes some problem. And yeah, hope I am audible now. And if you have any problem, you can ask me and you can put me. And you want me to repeat it again? Yeah, thank you, thank you. And if you want me to repeat it again, and I was talking about a critical analysis of the novel, then again echoing. No, don't know what is the problem actually, really. Yeah, some people, some students, they came to hand over scripts, maybe because of that. Yeah, thank you. And let me go through, get back to my novel. As I was giving you a summary in a capsule form, as a 7 years old, Pip walks through a churchyard on a cold grey day before Christmas and visiting the graves of his parents. He lives in the marsh area of Kent, where the river Thames meets the sea. Orphaned as a baby, he lives with his sister Georgina. I told you. Now, his sister, he has a cane to mend him. The cane, the title of that cane, even she has kept a name for that cane. That name is Kettler, right? So the village, especially the convent, has escaped from the nearby prison ships called the hulls. And after turning Pip upside down and finding only a piece of bread, the starving man threatens to eat his fat cheeks, which is very interesting. Learning that Pip lives with a blacksmith, and he agrees to let Pip live as long as he returns the next morning. Hope you are. Am I audible now? Not understood. Mic is working. Don't know what is the problem. Okay, wait, I'll leave the studio and I'll re-enter it. Maybe then it works. Yeah. Sure. Yeah, hope you. Am I audible now? Hope I am audible. Yeah. Just I have 15 minutes to complete this novel, and I'm focusing on the important characters and the story. And you might have heard the story or gone through the story. And if you have problems, please you can get back to us. Okay, let me continue the story. And Pip returns to his home and is warned by Joe that his sister is on a rampage looking for him. And she returns a short time later and sets him have it on the backside with a tickler, a wax tipped cane. Okay, tickler. This is a name of a cane, a wax tipped cane. She has brought him. She says in a novel that she is brought him up by hand, and something that gains her respect from all the neighbors. And Pip notices that she is quick to use the hand on him and Joe. So at supper, Pip slips his bread in his pants leg to save it for the convict because he had to rush. No, so Joe, concerned that Pip has swallowed the bread whole and might choke, expresses his worry. Mrs. Joe responds by pounding Joe's head against the wall and calling him a great stuck pig, then pouring tar water down both Pip's and Joe's throats. And later that night, they hear guns from the prison ship. Prison ships were called as hulks, okay, those days. So, announcing the escape of another convict. Unable to sleep, Pip gets up early to steal the food and pile and then sets out to deliver them. Then he runs into a second convict and assumes him to be the young man who eats boys' livers. So, running in terror, Pip finds his convict. Who was that convict? Able language. Got it? And while watching the man devour the food, Pip expresses concern about not leaving enough food for the young man who is waiting. The comic realizes that he is not alone on the marshes and suspecting it is an enemy of his enemy starts madly filing his leg iron while Pip escapes. So this is how the novel goes. And this is very interesting. And let me have a character analysis now because due to the shortage we have just a short time within that I have to cover up. And if you have any doubts, and don't worry, in my even afternoon I have some sessions. Later in that session, I'll tell you the summary and important characters what you have to focus on. And if you have any doubts, you can ask me and you can drop me in the chat box. Let us have a central character, Pip, and his name by name of Philip Pirre, fictional character, the young orphan whose growth and development are the subject of Charles Dickens' novel Great Expectation, and which was published in 1861. And Pip has low esteem and he is not valued and he does not value himself. He feels guilty for his very existence. And thanks to his sister, who constantly reminds him how she has suffered because of him. So he doesn't have a very good bondage with his sister than his rather than his with his brother-in-law. And so we could find a good rapport between Joe Gargery and Pip than with his sister. Okay, than between Pip and her sister. So other relatives, especially, he feels guilty. Always, Pip feels guilty for his very existence, thanks to her sister. And other relatives and friends reinforce his feelings by telling him how grateful he should be to his sister. And his only positive in life is Joe Gargery, his benefactor or his staunch ally always. And he looks forward to being his apprentice in the forge and Miss Havisham and Estella. And however, destroy that dream when they teach him to be ashamed of his course and common life. And Estella, I told you, know, and he always humiliates. Okay, he always humiliates him and he always makes him embarrassing, always like that. So there, when he entered to Satty's house, there he learned how he should be. And the dream of becoming a gentleman, it started there. And yeah, we could analyze and we should understand the dream and the intention or the ambition. because of Havisham and Estella, he decided to be a gentleman from then on. And however, though they did destroy his spirit, but still, somewhere indirectly, it was a blessing in a disguise. He made up his mind to be a gentleman. And their influence, coupled with his low self worth and his sister's messages about wealth and security, fueled his desires, ambitions, and snobbery. Being abused by his sister always is a passive personality who fears the stronger emotions in him. And he rarely shows power, passion, or self determination, reacting instead to those around him and living his life as a dreamer. The fantasy world of Satie's house feeds that part of him and shut from the light of the day. And Miss Havisham lives in her strange world always. And Pip responds to this and preserves the world by keeping the light of day and questions his sister and Pumblechook. This is also a very minor character, not major character, but plays a major role. Pumblechook asks from destroying its special fairy tale quality. The world is something that is his, and it holds his only passion in life. The fairy tale princess he desires was Estella. And I told you Estella is also one of the major characters. And for Pip, she is Barbie girl. She wanted to propose her, and she can be the fairy tale princess. So in that world, there are things he has never seen: beauty, wealth, polish, power, everything. And so both Estella and Miss Havisham used to dazzle him always. So, in Pig, the reader sees several of the themes of the novel: obsession, desire, greed, guilt, ambition, wealth, and good and evil. Pip leaves his state of childish innocence and grace and descends into sin on his quest to gain his desires. He wanted to be a what I told you, gentleman, and he wants it all, and he wants no caste. At Dickens does not make him totally bad or a dumb character. Instead, leaving the truly good qualities asleep underneath. They surface as his guilt over his snobbery to Joe and Biddy, over dragging Herbert into debt, and about trading Joe for a convict's money. And even during his worst moments, Pip manages to show some good qualities. As for example, when he sets Herbert up in business and he wanted to help his friend, and his road back to grace starts when Magwitch reveals himself as the source of Pip's rise in social stature. The irony is that the source of his gentility is from a creature more socially detestable than the uneducated Joe is not lost on him. It is the slap on his face when that brings people out of the fantasy world and he has been living in, and his dream has suddenly been seen in the light of day. And now, and then later on, he decides and he knows that what it had cost him. So he comes to know, as I told you, that more than social status and the luxury, the loyalty and compassion is worth more worth than the worth qualities one should inculcate in oneself. So the concepts of self responsibility, that is also very important. Am I audible? Yeah. The concepts of self-responsibility and the cost of choices made make up his lessons in the later part of the novel. Nothing in life comes free, as we all know, and one must accept the consequences of the choices made. So, in this way, Charles Dickens can be rated high as a novelist or as a child psychologist, right? How beautifully he has portrayed this character. Dickens generously gives Pip four father figures in the book to model this for him. Joe makes first one is Joe, his own brother-in-law. He makes his choice to stay with Mrs. Joe and show her more love than his mother had. he had fully accepting the cost of enduring her abuse. And Jaggers chooses control and an emotionless life and accepts the cost of loneliness and alienation. Then Vemic, he knows the only way to support himself, his father, and their home is to endure an emotionless job that could drive him crazy if he let it. And he accepts responsibility by keeping all this work and home life separate and knowingly accepts and pays the price for his actions. And finally, fourth father figure was Magwitch. Okay, Abel Magwitch, he knows the cost for seeing his dear boy is death. Okay, and makes his choice to go to England anyway, and he sponsor indirectly, like without coming to the notice of Pip. He sponsors him, and he becomes a benefactor for Pip to be a gentleman. So there are all many characters as well. Joe Gargery, he is the closest thing in the story in Toto because he is a good character. Joe Gargery, he is a hardworking, honorable, loyal, and fair gentleman who happens to be, who is he? He is the brother-in-law of Pip. Okay, he is equally comfortable showing both his raw and physical strength and his gentle, patient, emotional side. He is compassionate to the convict who stole his food as well as to the memory of his alcoholic thing. And though he recognizes Mrs. Joe's strengths and weaknesses. He remembers her better times and wants to protect her from the suffering that his mother endured with his father. So he shows unconditional love. Yeah, he shows. Yeah, he shows unconditional love where towards Pip, and he supports him than her husband, than his wife. Sorry, he shows unconditional love, support, and whenever Pip needed. And his function in the story is to support Pip throughout the novel. Then another important character, as I have told you, Magwitch, Abel Magwitch, and he is a young man, very character in the beginning of the novel, and which is what Joe would have been if Joe had been ruled by his passions and reacted to life instead of taking responsibility for his choices. And Magwitch, he is another, as I have told you, that he is another father figure for Pip, and showing both what happens with bad choices, right? And how you can rise above them. And during his rough childhood, even see, all the characters have their own backgrounds, and only when you read this novel, then only you could able to understand. So the hidden good has a chance to come out, and he remembers the generosity of a small boy. Who is a small boy? Referring to Pip. And feeling the bond of powerlessness and victimization they both shared as convict and child. And he recommits in his life, and he wanted to help that poor boy once who had helped him. And through the help of a lawyer, he realizes what the dream of who's a kid, and so he wanted to help him, and he wanted to be the benefactor of it to make his dream realize. Got it? This is the important thing you need to know. Hope you have understood it. And another, there are many characters, important characters in the novel, and please go through it. Go through the novel, and if you have any doubts, you can come back to me. Then Miss Havisham is also very important. I wish to discuss this. Miss Havisham is one of the most strange and grotesque character in this novel, and she can be considered as the wicked witch. Okay, and she can be considered, and the way of dressing herself, everything looks strange. And so she is considered as a wicked witch of the fairy tale. And in adopting Estella, she seeks to protect the girl from the hurt she herself had suffered. And that intention, however, degrades into her training Estella to take or to avenge on all the men folk like that. So she trains Estella to love no one and exact always avenge men. And Miss Havisham was proud, beautiful, passionate, and very headlong lady or headstrong lady, and that things companies and come used to against her. Always Compison is another minor character, and who once upon a time had ditched her when she was young. So she wanted to, only because she had to she was being ditched by one man. She thinks that the whole men in the world are like that. So she prepares Estella to avenge other men for, and then she trains her, and she gets somewhat kind of vicarious pleasure whenever she sees Estella hurts Pip. This is quite a different thing. And please read the episode of Sally's house. That's very important. So deeply hurt, reeling from the loss of control, she felt, Miss Havisham felt, by the betrayal, and determined to regain both control and self-image, Miss Havisham chooses her lifestyle, and she makes her lifestyle in a different manner. Okay, let me stop and I'll continue.
Hello, dear students, dear learners, the students of our Karnataka State Open University English Department. I welcome you again to this session, the third day session. So, as I introduce myself, this is Dr. Nataraj, the chairperson of the Department of English, and I'm so happy to invite you to this third day classes of mine. And today I'm going to take up the third paper, the course 3, the Restoration Literature. The Restoration Literature, 18th century English literature, Restoration and 18th century English literature. That means we come across the 17th century and 18th century English literature. Yesterday, we were all studied the 15th to 16th century literature, Dr. Faustus, Christopher Marlowe's, and now we are in 17th to 18th century English literature, where I'm going to take up a very significant, a very classic, which represent the entire Restoration period. That is the Rape Epilogue by Alexander Pope. Hope you all have remember. You can most of you have written your assignment on this mock epic. Are you able to listen me? Am I audible to you all? Okay, some of you are testing. Yes, very good morning, Panchai or Prakash, and all of you are here. A very good morning to you people. Oh, am I audible? Is it clear? You can just say yes or no. If I'm audible, yes, thank you. Now, coming back to the text, today's text, that is the Rape of the Lock. The term, the rape, meant to be lost the chastity, you're aware of. The lock, L-O-C-K, the term signifies the hair, the curl hair. Generally, the women they do live here, the curly hair. We can see in the ancient movies, then we can see how the actress, they would leave a lock. So the rape of the lock. The lady called Arabella Farmer, a lady called Belinda, she lost her hair. So that is the title, the rape of the lock. How she lost the lock, that is an important question. Much before that, when we talk about the Restoration and 18th century literature, we can come across lots of unethical themes, issues, scandalous, and the follies, the gaieties, the misconduct of all the mannerisms. The entire literature, somehow it throws a lights on how the Restoration, the men and women, they lost the kind of morality and ethics. They seek a kind of the kind of a morals. So that this text, that is a Rape of the Lock, it is meant to be a didactic criticism. Didactic in the sense seeking for truth, seeking for some principles and morals. And this text is considered as a mock epic. So what do you mean by mock epic? I must tell you, see this, there are two terms. One is a mock and epic. For example, yesterday probably you might have aware of the Paradise Lost of John Milton. It is an epic poem, the Mahakavya, what do we say in Kannada? And this is a mock epic. It is against that. When we talk about the epic, we can see a grand narrative style. The poet writes a poem with a grand narrative style with a diction at the beginning and the end. We'll see the battle between the people. So we see a kind of a grand narrative style that follows certain epic conventions. On the epic Mahakavya Egirbeku annodana kelavu the conviction anna follow ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ epic ಗಳು. Andre this text, that is a rape of the lock, mock epic, it violates the grand narrative style. There is in the epic, the subject matter is a very grandiose, whereas in the mock epic, the subject matter is a very, very trivial and a trivial. ನಾವು ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಲ್ಲ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ತುಂಬಾ ಕ್ಷುಲ್ಲಕ ಸಣ್ಣ ವಿಚಾರಕ್ಕೆ like making a mountain out of a molehill. ನಿಮ್ಗೆಲ್ಲ ಕೇಳಿದಿರಾ, it's a proverb. ಆ ಒಂದು situation. So what do you mean by mock epic? Mock epic or mock heroic poem, which is the rape of the lock of today's class. I'm going to teach you a mock epic by Alexander Pope, a 17th century English writer who deliberately write this poem for the purpose. I tell you, what purpose did he write this? Yes, there is a purpose. It's a realistic mock epic poem based on the true incident of during the period of Augustan age, the Restoration age of 17th century. The mock and mock heroic poem, it imitates the style of the epic genre. Epic genre on the night is imitates it against, and it only applies to a trivial subject matter. So what is a trivial subject matter? Let us come to understand in this poem. So I'll begin this poem. See, this is what I'll just give a brief introduction about the poem, then I'll get into the the kind of a thematic analysis. I won't get into more criticism about this poem, because this mock heroic, because the criticism point of view, you can get enormous material in the study material has been given to you from the university. So I just give you an overview. I'll just give you a thematic analysis of the cantos. There are 5 cantos, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, like the way we have come across yesterday. And I just give you an overview, the background, what made Alexander Pope to write this poem. What is the story behind the background of the text? See, the rape of the lock describes a trivial incident of a real. So it's based on the real incident. Okay, it is mocking at some sort of a real episode. I tell you what is that. See, Robert the 7th Lord Peter. The Lord Peter, he is a 7th Lord during that time. His name is Lord Peter. He is also named for Robert the 7th Lord Peter. Let us call it simply briefly that is a Lord Peter. Well known for his amorous and frivolous nature. He's a very, very frivolous and very amorous and the lustful character, happy-go-lucky character. He's a very frivolous and a very, very, kind of an amorous kind of a person. So like, happy-go-lucky, who never takes his life so seriously, who always, tries to amuse with the ladies. The kind of the person is, what do we say, like playboy, whatever you call. So Lord Peter is such a person. And well known for his amorous and frivolous and nature, and loved a lady called Arabella Fermor. So during the 17th century, Lord Peter, he loved a lady called Arabella Fermor. I'm making it a very simplifier. So Arabella Fermor is a most famous for her elegance and a grace. The most beautiful lady with a grace and elegance. And fashionable society of London. So this lady belonged to the fashionable society of London. So 17th to 18th century, it is considered as a fashionable society. People only value for the money and the fashion and the kind of mannerisms, tendency, aristocracy. But there is no value for any kind of ethicality, moral, humanism. That kind of scope was not at all there during the time. So we are talking about the people of aristocracy. So the Lord Peter belonged to the aristocracy community, and Arabella Fermor, she belongs to aristocracy community, community, and she's a most grace and a fashionable woman, belonged to the London. She had the elegance, beauty. Are you getting my point? Just tell me that you are getting. Some of you said epic means long narration of a story. No, epic means it's a grand narrative structure. A story in the sense it's a grand narrative structure, okay, which has certain the structure. Like in the beginning there is a muse, in the muse, address to the goddess of poetry. So there is a structure in it. Okay, coming back to so after that, he snipped off a lock of her hair and offended her because she did not respond to his lover. What this Lord Peter did, he cut the lock of Arabella Fermor. He cut the lock of Arabella Fermor because Arabella Fermor, she did not respond to his proposals, as she did not accept his love proposal. Whereas Lord Peter proposed her many times, and whereas she did not, put any kind of prominence or importance to him. And one day, and he cuts her lock. Lock in the sense, hair adu. Generally, the women of the aristocracy, they would live here as a token of their beauty. If they leave a lock here, that means a long hair here, and that means that indicates, that enhances the beauty. It's an augmentative quality that the beauty will be enhanced. So what Lord Peter did, that adan cut madbena, let me just cut off the lock ante he cuts the lock of Belinda. And that is a crime that he has committed. That is a mistake that he has committed. And this is the subject matter here. And then cuts the lock of her hair and offended her because she did not respond to his love. And then this trivial incident gave rise to a serious quarrel between these two important families. So Lord Peter families and Arabella families, they met one another. They quarreled each other. So it is a background. This I'm talking about the kind of a real incident which happened. Whereas in the poem, the names are different. Lord Peter name is a Baron, and Arabella Fermor name is Belinda. So I'm talking about the real incident which happened. So I'm just talking about the background. Okay, I'm not getting to poem so far. I just get into the poem later on, or once I just complete the background, because the background is very important in this poem. And then, so the two families are in rivalries. They are in a hostility. They're in a malice. They're on a loggerhead to quarrel each other. So somebody has to pacify it. Somebody has to mitigate the situation. Samadhana madbeki on the situation. Let us see. And what happened? It caused a deep stir in the Roman Catholic Society of London. When these two families, they're in a loggerhead. It created a kind of a hill atmosphere in the entire Roman Catholic Society of London. Roman Catholic London, it created a lot of ruckus and a havoc, and people are always in a loggerhead. And then what happens? And because both the Peter and the farmers belong to it, and what happened? The family friend, the John Carroll, a common friend of both the families. John Carroll. What does he do? What is he? He is a close acquaintance of both the families. Oh, Lord Peter family and Arabella Fermor family. He's a close aide, close friend of these two families. What does he do? And he does that. Who was a long life friend of Alexander Pope. Alexander Pope na snehita yaru, yaru? John Carroll idanalla. So John Carroll, he's a close friend of Alexander Pope. Oh, Alexander Pope, on the doddo offense agbitide namma family matters alli. There is a big offense that taken place. He was also a long life friend of Pope, requested the poet to write a mock epic based on this trivial incident. Even the sanna vichara ideyalla, cutting off the lock, the subject anna itkondo, keep it as a subject matter, and please you write a mock epic. Both the families should be get a kind of a complacency. ಇಬ್ಬರಿಗೂ ಸಮಾಧಾನ ಆಗೋ ತರ ಒಂದು ಪೊಯಂ ಬರ್ಬಿಡಪ್ಪ, ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ಸಮಾಧಾನ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಡ ನೀನು ಹೇಗಾರು ಮಾಡಿ ಅಂತ ಜಾನ್ ಕ್ಯಾರಿಲ್ ರಿಕ್ವೆಸ್ಟೆಡ್ ಅಲೆಕ್ಸಾಂಡರ್ ಪೋಪ್, ದ ಕ್ಲೋಸ್ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್. ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ ಅಲೆಕ್ಸಾಂಡರ್ ಪೋಪ್? ಸೊ ರಿಕ್ವೆಸ್ಟೆಡ್ ದ poet to write a mock heroic poem based on the trivial incident. So he decided, then Alexander Pope was convinced. Saryappa, you're a close friend of mine. I can't say no. Let me write a poem. The poem will be a kind of a complacency, a samadhana, the kind of a result which makes them a happy state of mind. So I'll do one thing. Let me agree your request, and I write a poem. Then he writes a poem that giving a title called "The Ray of the Lock." You got the point. Then, so there is one kind of a prologue, an introduction, but much before Alexander write this poem. How does he say so? The stealing of Miss Arabella Fermor hair. Lord Peter, he not only cuts the lock, he preserves the lock and keeps it with him as a token of his love. Because Arabella Fermor did not love him. At least he keeps the lock as a token of memory. as a because she's a most beautiful, fashionable lady during the time of 17th to 18th century. And what happened? So the stealing of Miss Arabella Fermor's hair was a token, was taken too seriously and caused an estrangement between the two families. And though they had lived so long in a great friendship before, a common acquaintance and well-wisher, the John Carroll, admired me to write a poem to make a just andre, to make a mock at, to joke at the kind of a laugh at them again, to laugh at this subject matter. So it was with this view I wrote the poem, The Rape of the Lock. So he writes a prologue saying that this is a reason, a trivial incident. What is the trivial incident? Cuts a log. And because of that, how the family were in a loggerhead. And a close friend of family members, that's a John Carroll, requested me. So I'm reading this poem. And then, so after that, before because, just because you got the subject matter, the subject matter is a trivial incident, cuts the log. Because of that, you can't simply write a mock epic. ಮಾಕ್ ಎಪಿಕ್ ನ ಬರೆಯೋದು ಸುಲಭ ಅಲ್ಲ. ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ, ಅವನು ಒಂದ್ಸಲ ಒಂದು ಫ್ರೆಂಚ್ದು ಒಂದು ಬುಕ್ ಓದಿರ್ತಾನೆ. ಯಾರು? ಅಲೆಕ್ಸಾಂಡರ್ ಪೋಪ್. ಈ ರಿಮೈಂಡ್ಸ್ ದಟ್, ಸೊ ಅದನ್ನ ಒಂದು ಫ್ರೆಂಚ್ ಬುಕ್ ಓದಿದ್ನಲ್ಲ. ಪೋಪ್ ಕಮ್ ಅಕ್ರಾಸ್ ಎ ಫ್ರೆಂಚ್ ಬುಕ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಲಾ, it's French name, not able to read that. It dealt with a kind of a doctrines of spirit. ಆ ಫ್ರೆಂಚ್ ಬುಕ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಸ್ಪಿರಿಟ್ಸ್ ಬರುತ್ತಲ್ಲ ನೋಡಿ, ಏಂಜಲ್ಸ್, ಯೆಸ್ಟರ್ಡೇಸ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಗುಡ್ ಏಂಜಲ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಬ್ಯಾಡ್ ಏಂಜಲ್, ಅದೇ ತರ ಇಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಕೆಲವು ಸ್ಪಿರಿಟ್ಸ್ ಗಳನ್ನ ಅಲೆಕ್ಸಾಂಡರ್ ಪೋಪ್ ಈ ಕಮ್ ಅಕ್ರಾಸ್ ಇನ್ ದಿಸ್ ಫ್ರೆಂಚ್ ಬುಕ್. And what happened in this poem also, he has to introduce some kind of spirits, angels ಗಳನ್ನ, ಅವನು ಸೂಪರ್ ನ್ಯಾಚುರಲ್ ಎಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಗಳನ್ನ ತರಬೇಕು. ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಅ ಮಾಕ್ ಎಪಿಕ್, he wants to bring some supernatural elements. ಹೆಂಗ್ ತಗೋಬರ್ತಾನೆ? He introduced some spirits because he inspired from the French book, okay, written by some French writer. And what happens then? So Pope was much fascinated by the treatment of spirits in the French book and introduces those spirits in this poem. ಅವ್ರು ಯಾರಪ್ಪ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ, so we have 4 spirits. ಒಂದು salamanders, nymphs, gnomes and sylphs. ಈ 4 ಕ್ಯಾರೆಕ್ಟರ್ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಸ್ಟಡಿ ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಲ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ನೀವು ಒಂದ್ಸಲ ಓದಿ. ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ದಿಸ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಪ್ಲೀಸ್ ಯು ರೀಡ್ ಗೋ ಥ್ರೂ ದಿಸ್ ಸ್ಪಿರಿಟ್ಸ್. ಈ 4 ಸ್ಪಿರಿಟ್ಸ್ ಗಳನ್ನ ಅವನು ಫ್ರೆಂಚ್ ರೈಟರ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದಂತ ಬುಕ್ ಇಂದ ತಾನು ಕೂಡ ಡಿರೈವ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾನೆ. So what happened? So Pope has given a very suitable title to this poem. So he gave a suitable title to this poem. It clearly points out that Belinda's hair was forcibly cut and taken away by the Baron. And because the Baron, he's took off the lock, and this trivial incident was a cause of great hostility between the Peters and the Arabella Fermor's families. This incident is the main subject of the poem, hence the title is appropriate. Look at the title. How is it? The Rape of the Lock. As I told you, the chastity has been lost, the virginity has been lost. The moment she lost the lock, the beautiful lock, she thinks that she lost her virginity, the chastity, as she felt as though she's raped. So it is the rape of the lock. So the lock, that means she lost her lock. This is the subject matter. She gives the title. And talking about the characters here, most of the characters described in the poem have been identified with one or the other persons in the real life. This is very important. The characters that we come across in the mock epic are the characters are very lifeless, life characters we come across in our day-to-day life. And then only Clarissa remains unidentified. There is one character called Clarissa. She appeared to be unidentified because her portraiture, or the kind of a character portraiture is a different. Because Clarissa, ಒಂದು ಕೊನೆಯ ಘಟ್ಟದಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾಳೆ. ಅವಾಗ when the poem ends up to give a message to these 2 families, those are very trivial. ಒಂದು ಕ್ಷುಲ್ಲಕ ವಿಚಾರಕ್ಕೆ ಜಗಳ ಆಡದಂತ ಈ ಫ್ಯಾಮಿಲಿಗಳಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ಮೆಸೇಜ್ ಹೇಳ್ತಾಳೆ. ಯಾರಪ್ಪ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಕ್ಲಾರಿಸಾ. ಏನಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾಳೆ? This is what she says, that it is a concluding speech of her Clarissa, saying that charms strike the sight but merit win the soul. Charms strike the sight, so we can see the things by eye to eye, but merit the soul, merit win the soul. Ultimately, the chastity, the virtues are lies in the heart. So the heart is important, not the beauty. Beauty diminishes, but not the virtues. Anta ಒಂದು ಮೆಸೇಜ್ ಅನ್ನ ಹೇಳಿದಂತ ಕ್ಲಾರಿಸಾ, she appear here as a messenger who try to reconcile these 2 family members. Who? The Clarissa's words. And come back to Clarissa, and she remains unidentified. And Belinda and Peter are the two chief characters of the poem. So Miss Arabella Firma has been presented as Belinda. As I told you, Arabella Firma, she has been presented in the poem as a Belinda, and the Lord Peter has presented as, the Lord Baron. So please, you keep it in your mind. And then, so she consider a sacred duty to deck her, the kind of with the offering of the world Indian glowing gems and Arabella in Arabia's perfumes. But our character, that's a lot. Arabella Firma, the Belinda, she had a tendency. She always decorate herself because she's a beautiful lady. She decorate herself with the India's glowing gems. Indiaದಿಂದ ತಯಾರಾಗಿರುವಂತ jewelries ಗಳಿಂದ she decor herself, and Arabia's perfumes. She brings the perfumes from the Arabia. So she has that kind of a fascination for all these things. And I haven't gone through the poem yet. I am not coming to the poem yet. I'm still in the background. Okay, listen me. Background is very important to understand the poem. Are you able to follow me now, dear students? Are you able to follow me? Okay, yes. Okay, and then she proudly moves in the company of young lords and ladies. She had this tendency that she every day after she gets up and she decorated herself and she goes amidst of the young people, moves in the company of a young lord and ladies, because she's a aristocracy woman, and she had that kind of a tendency. All are attracted by her beauty. She was going to there's one place called Hampton Court. Hampton Court is a place where all aristocracy people, they gather and they discuss. They will have a cup of tea and they will discuss. They talk about all kind of trivial issues, not the serious issue, not the grandish issue. They discuss only the trivial issues. So the Hampton Court signifies that all the aristocracy people would be flocked together and they discuss all kind of mundane issues. So this is one thing. And she'll be always amidst of these people. So all are attracted by her beauty. Belinda's beauty has been attracted by many people. She goes deliberately to Hampton Court to kill the people by her beauty. Okay, and then probably she's more to a current, appropriate even to the current situation if you do come across. And she suffers an account of her extraordinary fondness of parties. She was madly fell in love with all kind of parties, she amidst of all youth and young ladies and all that. So what happened further? Coming back to the Baron, what kind of person is he? The Baron, the Lord Peter, has been identified with the Robert, the seventh Lord, as I told you, who cut the lock of Miss Arabella Firma. He is given all the frivolities to which lords and ladies are of the age were proud of. Somehow other people, the contemporaries of Lord Peter, are quite happy with the kind of the things which befallen on the part of Arabella Firma, because she has never accepted anyone's proposal so far. And then so here I'm just keep this incident in your mind, this the background in your mind. So now I'm going to give an analysis about the entire text, the thematic analysis of the entire text. So now what you understood, Alexander Pope, he write this poem, give a title, The Rape of the Lock, in the 17th century. And here he uses certain supernatural elements like sylphs, salamanders, gnomes, and all that. And here, the John Carroll is the close friend of Alexander Pope. John Carroll requested Pope to write a poem in order to reconcile these two family members, both the Lord Peter and the Arabella Firma, and ultimately this poem is published. This poem is written. So now, shall I get into the poem now? I'll get into the poem. Okay, let me get into the poem now. This is what happens in the poem. The poem begins like this. Say, this is a textbook, and The Rape of the Lock by Alexander Pope. I want you to read the entire text. Alexander Pope, The Rape of the Lock. It's a very tiny book. It's around for nearly some 60 to 70 pages it runs, and it's a very interesting. See, here the title is given as a Canto 1. Canto 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So unlike yesterday, I won't go by kind of wise. I just give you the entire picture because I have to complete this within an hour, this poem, because the next hours I will also take up another very significant poem, that is the Canterbury Tales, which is for 10 marks, and this text also for 10 marks. So listen it very carefully. So on the noon, I'll take up another poem, that is the Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer. It's a very important narrative poem, long narrative poems of early 14th century. So this poem begins like this. Alexander Pope begins the poems like this. What dire offense from amorous causes springs? What mighty contest rise from the trivial issues? So it's a mighty thing. People have been treating it as a mighty thing. It's a big issue from a trivial issues. Alexander Pope, what is this? Because he's a mock epic. He's mocking at the entire episode. He's mocking at the entire episode. And coming back to the poem. So at the noon, when the sun was accustomed to awaken both the lapdogs and lovers, the moment sun arises, everybody will be awakened, especially the lapdogs and the lovers. Because lovers, the people are in love, they will never sleep at all, because always be awakened. They want sun to be arisen, and they'll be ready for the day to take up their coursework. So Belinda was still asleep. During the time, the Canto 1, the Belinda, she's still asleep. She's sleeping, though the sun has arisen, and she's still sleeping. She dreamed, the Ariel that she dreamed that the Ariel appeared to whisper praises of her beauty in her ear. She was in a dreaming, and she was dream of all youth and young people, because she's such a beautiful lady. She has this fascination for going for frequent dreaming and all that. And in that moment, when she's sleeping and dreaming something, an Ariel, he comes and whispers in the ears of Belinda. Enanta whisper madutte Ariel. The Ariel is a spirit which protects the Belindas, always associate Belinda, a companion to Belinda. And she dreamt that the Ariel appeared to whispers praises of her beauty in her ear. And Ariel is going to glorify her beauty, and he's going to whisper in her beauty. She's remembering that. He said that he had been sent to protect her because something dreadful he did not know that was befall her. And he tells that something dreadful is going to happen in your life. Belinda, and I have been sent here. ನಿಮ್ಮನ್ನ ಪ್ರೊಟೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡೋ ಸಲುವ ಕಳಿಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತ ಏರಲ್ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, ಅವಳ ಕಿವಿ ಹತ್ರ ಬಂದು ಹೇಳುತ್ತೆ. ಏನಂತ ಹೇಳುತ್ತೆ? He did not know that what was about to befall her. Something dreadful is going to happen to you. He also warned her to beware of jealousy, pride above all men. Beware of all, and most beware of men. ಇವತ್ತು ಮೆನ್ನಿಂದ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಏನೋ ಒಂದು ಕಂಟಕ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. Some dreadful is going to happen to your life, and please be careful today. When you go to Hampton Court to meet the young people, you should be better careful and don't ignore my words ಅಂತ ಏರಿಯಲ್ ಅವಳ ಕಿವಿ ಹತ್ರ ಬಂದು ಹೇಳುತ್ತೆ. Getting my point? Are you getting my point? Yes, Belinda, she's still sleeping. And ನೋಡಿ, somebody is saying that who is Belinda? Isto half an hour nimge Belinda ಬಗ್ಗೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಹೇಳ್ದೆ ನಾನು ಅಲ್ಲ. Belinda, she's a character in this poem. In the actual life, she's Arabella Farmer, isn't it? Arabella Farmer. Yes, sir. Understood. Clear, sir. Okay, very nice. Samira, Suhani. So far, I have given you the entire background, and somebody is saying that who is Belinda? I think Jyoti, somebody. Jyoti, Belinda, she's Arabella Farmer in the actual life. The poem is based on the real incident. I've given you sufficient introduction about this Arabella Farmer and the Lord Peter. So let me not get into to tell you who is Belinda actually. I told you she's a character, aristocracy woman in this poem. Okay. Yes, Arabella is Belinda. Excellent. So what happened? So, and Ariel, he warned Belinda. You also not to dream. If you dream, you will not understand the characters. I think some of you are dreaming still. So you get the confusion. You're getting confusion to who is Belinda, who is Lord Baron. This confusion arises those who are daydreaming. Okay. Yes. Coming back to what happened. So also warned her to beware of all and most beware of men. Something dreadful is going to happen in your life. So beware of all and most beware of men. Ariel, it informs to Belinda when she was sleeping. After Ariel had vanished, so after he gave a caution, it vanished. And shock shocked Belinda's lapdog. So Belinda's lapdog, associates with Belinda. Its name is a Shock. It's a Belinda's lapdog. It's a dog. Thought that his mistress had slept long enough. Shock, it thinks that why the mistress is sleeping for a long time. What really happened to her? And he awakened her by lapping of his tongue. He tries to awake Belinda because she's still sleeping. She's still dreaming, daydreaming, because the sun arises and she's sleeping. Rousing herself, Belinda spied a letter on a bed. The moment suddenly she woke up, our tendency is to read the love letters written by all men who glorify beauty. Belinda, she had a fascination to read the love letters. The love letters contain the glorifications of a beauty. ನೋಡೋಣ ಇವತ್ತು ಯಾರು ನನ್ನ ಗ್ಲೋರಿಫೈ ಮಾಡಿ ಕಾಗದಗಳು ಬರೆದಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತ ಎದ್ದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಓದೋದು. She reads the love letters. Who? The Belinda. She had that fascination. And then what happened? And after she reads a letter so promptly and forget everything that the Ariel told. After she reads the letters, she her in memory she diminishes. She forgets whatever the Ariel told her. She should not forget the word that to be aware of men today, because something dreadful will happen to her. And then including the warning to be beware of men. After that, after she read the letters, further the Belinda's aided by her maid called Betty. Belinda, she had a maid, a servant called Betty. Betty always assists Belinda. She aided her and she assisted her. A companion began to make a dressing table. Betty decides, yes, I should keep all the dressing table correct, because the moment Belinda comes, she walks up and after she ready, she'll go to dressing table and she applies all Indian jewels and she applies all Arabian perfumes and she decorates herself. Literally decorate. This is decorate herself. There is a word. She literally decorate herself with all kind of the perfumes, jewels, and all that. And she presents a mirror to her, because now Belinda, she needs a mirror and she sits in front of mirror and she glorifies her beauty. Adikke we have a word called narcissism anta. Narcissism antandre the one who glorifies her own beauty. One who glorifies their own beauty. Look at how beautiful I am. Nodu ನಾನು ಎಷ್ಟು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿದ್ದೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ. She goes to in front of the mirror and turns in front of a dressing table and she glorifies her beauty. Thank you very much. Some of you are saying that your explanation really takes us to 17th century, sir. That's nice if you are, exactly we are, old century. Wonderful, because that means you are giving a justice, to this poem. So she goes, and this is a word that you should remember. That is, it reminds narcissism. I think all of us are narcissists. So here the Belinda, she's a narcissist because she glorifies her own beauty. She glorifies her beauty. And now, after that, the important thing that she does for the day, she guiltily of the pride against which Ariel had cautioned her. But Ariel, though Belinda, she knows that Ariel somehow the memory permits to her in a rummage. So memories in a rummage. Ariel had cautioned her to be beware of men. Because I'm such a beautiful lady, what will happen to me? She had that kind of the gumption or whatever, the pride or audacity, whatever, and she's completely forget the words of Ariel. Adadmele, after once she completely ready to go to the Hampton Court, the London, and how she'll go to London, Hampton Court, she has to cross a sea journey. On the boat ಮೇಲೆ ಹೋಗಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅವಳು. Okay, ಅಲ್ಲೇನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, the journey, the sun journey across the sky witness, it's a brilliant rival, Belinda boating on the Thames with her friends and suitors. ಅವಳು ಆ ರಿವರ್ ಥೇಮ್ಸ್ ಮೇಲೆ ತನ್ನ ಜರ್ನಿನ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಯಾರು? Belinda, she started a journey and she stood in front of mirror and she glorified herself, she decorated herself, and dressing table is completely happy with everything that she was decorated and all that. And now, the next journey is to go to Thames and to go toward the Hampton Court. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, all her friends, all her suitors, all her lovers, they come. Okay. Poetic character as we are seeing it in life. Okay, could be your comments. and boating at the Thames with her friends and suitors, and all eyes were upon her. ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಆಕೆ ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. Everyone's eyes set towards Belinda's. What is this? Look at the lady. How beautiful is she? And Belinda, she's fascinated by the glorification. She knew it that she's so beautiful, and she's least bothered whatever the people appraised her. ಅಂತಹ ಒಂದು arrogancy, ಅಂತಹ ಒಂದು conceit. Yes, they are there to enjoy looking at my beauty. ಅನ್ನೋ ತರ tendency. She's a narcissist. ಅಂದ್ರೆ she's beautiful and she's a narcissist. And like a true coquette, COQUETTE, coquette ಅಂದ್ರೆ flirt ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ. Like a true coquette, she smiled at her swains. ಅಲ್ಲಿ suitors ಇರ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ, lovers ಇರ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ, ಅವ್ರ ಹತ್ರ she smiled like a flirt. And coquette, she smiled at her swains, but favored no one more than another. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಆಕೆ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಸ್ಮೈಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾಳೆ, but she will never ever favor anyone, and no one, she'll never take anyone for a favor. And then so the journey starts, and Lord Peter, one of the Belinda's suitors, ಅಷ್ಟು ಜನ suitors ಅಲ್ಲಿ, ಅಷ್ಟು ಜನ lovers ಗಳಲ್ಲಿ, suitors ಅಂದ್ರೆ whoever loved Belinda, whoever liked Belinda very much. So Lord Peter is also one among them. ಅವನೇನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ, ನೋಡು ಎಷ್ಟು ದುರಾಂಕಾರ ಇದೆ ಬೆಲಿಂಡಾಗೆ. She smiles at everybody. She's a flirtious. And what happened? Sir, please repeat the spirit's name. I repeat, it's there in the lessons. Notes ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ನೋಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಯಾವ್ದಪ್ಪ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಸ್ಪಿರಿಟ್ಸ್ ಯಾವ್ಯಾವ ಬರ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ salamanders, nymphs, gnomes and sylphs ಅಂತ ಬರ್ತಾರೆ. ಅದನ್ನ you please get into the study material. Yes. And then okay, and Lord Peter, one of the Belinda's suitors, ಅವನೇನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ, Lord Peter's suitors admire a lock of her hair. When she was smiling at everybody, and Lord Peter, he looks at the lock. The picture illa illi, otherwise I would have show the picture. Hope you can remember the lock, the most beautiful lock. If you look at Kannada cinema actress like Kalpana or Bharati, if you look at the whole cinemas like Bangarada Manushya, she has a beautiful lock here. That is a token of memory, a token of their appreciation, the beautiful sign for a woman. Antaha ಒಂದು ಲಾಕ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬೆಲಿಂಡಾ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. And Lord Peter, he got the sight of this lock. My goodness, look at this lock, how beautiful is it ಅಂತ ಅವನು ಅದನ್ನ ನೋಡ್ತಾನೆ. And vowed that he would have it by fair means or a foul. ನಾನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ, ಪ್ರಾಮಿಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ, by fair or a foul means I should get it. ಒಳ್ಳೆತನ ಕೆಟ್ಟತನ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ, ನಾನು at any cost ಆ ಲಾಕ್ ನಾನು ಪೊಸೆಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು, ಅದನ್ನ ನಾನು ಕಸ್ಕೋಬೇಕು, ಅದನ್ನ ಕಿತ್ಕೋಬೇಕಂತ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ. he decided to cut the lock of Belinda, and he has to possess it. ನಾನು ಅದನ್ನ ಪಡಿಲೇಬೇಕಂತ ಹಠ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ. And so set was he on the getting the lock that before the sun rose that morning he had built an altar to go to the God of love, and had thrown all the trophies received from the farmer's sweethearts. Meanwhile, asking love to give him soon the prize he wanted, to let him to keep it for a long time, but love granted him only off of his prayer. So after the journey starts, he decided that he prepare his own, he construct a plot altar antandre kind of a small room, a building type, an altar, and where he put all his trophies, and he invokes to the God of love. ನನ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ, ನನಗೆ ಒಂದು ಶಕ್ತಿ ಬೇಕೇನಪ್ಪ ಅಂದ್ರೆ I need a kind of a potentiality, or I need a kind of a grace to cut the lock of Belinda. ನನಗೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಪ್ರೊವೈಡ್ ಮಾಡು ಅಂತ ಅವನು ಪ್ರೇ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ. ಯಾರು ಅವನು he prays to the God of love. ದೇವರಿಗೂ ಪ್ರೀತಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ದೇವರು ಅಂತ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ನೋಡಿ, ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಹುಡುಗರಿಗ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರೀತಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ದೇವರು ಅಂತ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. He goes to the God of love, and he prays, and give me the strength and give me the power to cut the lock of Belinda. I can dedicate all my trophies, take all my trophies, everything, and give me the power. Meanwhile, asking love to give him soon the prize he wanted. But for me, I need to cut the lock of Belinda, because Belinda's lock is very, very precious to me. And he decided that. But love granted him only half of his prayer. Okay, I'll give you a power only for half of it. So the God of love says that. So no, after that, everyone except AL seemed happy during the journey on the Thames. So everybody is happy except the Ariel. Yakandre Belinda, she's forgetting the words of the Ariel. Whatever the Ariel suggested, she's completely forget. Adike Ariel ge gottu, because Ariel, it is a supernatural elements. Aden madutte ಮುಂಗುರುಳು ಅಂತ ಇದೆಯಾ? ಲ್ಯಾಕ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ಮುಂಗುರುಳು. ಜ್ಯೋತಿ ಹೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ. Maybe it's a ಮುಂಗುರುಳು. Mungurudu, it's a lock, the long hair. Could be a mungurudu, but I'm not sure about it. But it is the lock, which is a long hair, which generally women keep. I don't know, mungurudu or whatever. Okay, don't interrupt, please. Ask at the end of the session. Okay, good. Good. Some of you can keep your questions in the fag end of the point too, but in between you can also put some very crucial observations. Okay, Harish is a very curious to listen. Yes, Harish is very much attentive. What happened? So Ariel seemed to be very unhappy in the course of the journey because he knows that something dreadful is going to happen to Belinda, and he felt very happy. And that spirit summoned his aides and reminded them that their duty was to watch over the Belindas, because Ariel is a close aide of Belinda, and he tells to all the spirits, host spirits, bunny, salamanders, gnomes, nymphs, all you come, you people have to protect the Belinda's chastity, because something going to happen to Belinda. Here the Baron, the Ariel tells to all the spirits, and he tells that duty was to watch over the fair Belinda. Oh spirits, your duty is to watch over the Belinda's duty. That is your fundamental duty. I'm cautioning you anta ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ. So he assigned the duty to all the spirits. ಏನಪ್ಪ duty ಅಂದ್ರೆ one self to guard her, another self to watch her, and the third to watch her lock. ನೀವೆಲ್ಲ ಬೆಲಿಂಡಾನ ವಾಚ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರಬೇಕು, ತುಂಬಾ ಕೇರ್ಫುಲ್ ಆಗಿ. Should be very vigilant, to be very careful, and at least you are all the self, you should be very vigilant, and moreover please you protect, keep an eye on the lock of the Belindas anta he warned to all the spirits. And Ariel himself was to guard Belinda's lapdog, and 50 sylph were appointed all over Belinda's petticoat anta pada use ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ. There are almost 50 sylph were appointed to watch over maiden's petticoat, to protect her chastity. You have to keep an eye on Belinda's dress, the petticoat, in order to protect her chastity anta 50 sylph na appoint ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ. ಯಾರು? Ariel. Any negligent sylph warned to Ariel would be punished severely. So he warned the sylphs, look at, if something goes wrong, I'm going to warn you, I'm going to punish you very severely anta avanu warn ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ. ಯಾರು? 50 ಜನ sylphಗೂ warn ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ. You can appoint however you wish, whomever you want, all the spirits, because they are the very powerful supernatural elements in that sense. So after the sea journey on the Thames, Belinda accompanied Lord Peter and the rest of the party men. So what happened? All the people, okay, so what happened? So Lord Peter and all the men, they were there in the party, and Belinda, she accompanied everybody to the river, to the Hampton Court. You shouldn't forget this word, Hampton Court, Hampton, Hampton Court. This is the place where all aristocracy people do gather. So after a sea journey on the Thames, Belinda accompanied Lord Peter and the rest of the party men and visited one of the palaces near London. The palace is called Hampton Court. So there Belinda decided to play Omber. Omber andre, it's a Spanish card game. On the Spanish card game barutte, the card game, the Spanish card game adu called Omber, OMBRE. Adanna ellaru hadake start ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. So there Belinda, she decided to play Omber, a Spanish card game. A Spanish card game na avಳು hadake start ಮಾಡ್ತಾಳೆ with two of her suitors, including the Lord Peters. There are two suitors and lovers, and along with the Peter and somebody else, she wanted to play the card game. Let's see who will win. This is what the matters to do with all aristocracy people. Do they have to do something on the common people? Do they have to something to do on to the downtrodden people? Do they have to do something to listen the problems of the middle class people? No, for them their own problem is like, yes, look at the video I am. The money and all the kind of this kind of a scandalous life they led, isn't it? The kind of immoral life they led. So they decided to play Omber game, a Spanish card game, with two of her suitors, including Lord Peter. And as she played, visible self sat in an important card to protect her. So there is one self, it sits on the cards of Belinda because she's holding a card, and the card, it sits on the top because it also guides her that the maid should not lose the game. She must conquer. She should not be, there is one word for defeat. What is that word for defeat? There is one word, vanquished. Vanquished andre vanquished. Vanquished. She should not be vanquished or defeated. She should be conquered. She should win over the game. That's what the self is sit on the card game, cards, and it guides her. Because there are two men and Belinda. Ultimately, Belinda should win. Let's see who will win and what happened further. And what happened after that? The coffee was served after the game. So the game is over. The game is over, and we really do not know who wins or what. And what happens? The sylph sat on important cards to protect them, and coffee was served after the sylph. And it's none other than, in fact, gradually we understand it is the Belinda who wins the card game, and she's completely happy that she won the game. Okay, and the sylph sat on important cards to protect them. Ultimately, Belinda wins the game, and coffee was served after the game, and sylph guarded Belinda's dress to keep it from being spotted, and the fumes of the coffee sharpened the Lord Peter's wit to point where he thought to a new estrangement for stealing Belinda's law. And coffee was served. The moment he took a sip of a coffee, he got a kind of a power to take his revenge. Yes, I should take revenge. He knew estrangement for stealing the Belinda's law. So I think this is the time I must take because Belinda, she's in happy mood because she won the game, and she's completely forget herself, and she's overjoyed because when the person is overjoyed, he forgets the actual mundane issues, isn't it? Because we are in a happy state of mind. And what happens further? And one of his cronies and their friends, crony and the snehita, crony snehitರಲ್ಲಿ, one of his cronies handed him a pair of scissors. I know your intent to take Belinda's lock. You're intended to take the Belinda's lock. You take a scissor. You can cut the lock. And one of his cronies tells to Lord, the Peter Baron, the sylph aware of Belinda's danger. The many sylph, they know something danger is going to happen, but provided if she be very cautious. She should be very, very cautious. And whereas she's really unconscious because she is victorized in the game, and she's happy in giving the parties and making merriment with everybody. Sylph, aware of Belinda's danger, attempted to warn her before, and Lord Peter could act. But as the lady bent her head over taking a cup of coffee, and he clicked the lock, even Ariel was unable to warn Belinda in time. This is very, very important. See, Lord Peter could act. He cuts the lock of Belinda when Belinda, she bends her head down to take a cup of coffee. For example, this is a cup of coffee. The moment she bent her head down to take a cup of coffee, the lock, it hangs around. So what happened? Lord Baron, he easily takes the scissor, and when it's hanging, he clipped the lock and he cuts the lock. It fell down. What happened when the coffee is served? When she's bent her head down to take a coffee, and when he's also taking coffee, and when the crony handed over the scissor to cut the lock, and he could easily did that. And the sylph, aware of Belinda's danger, attempted to warn her before, and Lord Peter could act, but as the lady bent her head over to the cup of coffee, and he clicked the lock, and even Ariel was unable to warn Belinda in time. And Ariel could not warn Belinda. Belinda, something is going to happen. He's going to cut off your lock. Be careful on the helakku agalla. Yakandre avulu, she always had this dream. Because she won the game and she's dreaming, yes, I vanquished everybody. I win over everyone. So she forget her consign, and she's not at all aware of, and she easily bent her head down to take a cup of coffee, and Lord Peter cuts it. And he compares that. See, look at the way he compares it to. And at the rape of the lock, so rape in the sense, this is what? Not the physical, the kind of cutting the lock, that she lost the chastity. At the rape of the lock, Belinda, shocked into horror, she shouts, she screams, she, mortified. She became completely, annoyed with this kind of horror, and she screams. Horror has been created. And Lord Peter cried out in triumph, whereas Lord Peter holds the lock and he's screaming that he won the game, he won the war, whereas he's screaming and he's hold the lock and he's screaming that he's won the, it's a triumph antane, jaya nange anta kooptane. He praised the steel used in the scissor, comparing it with the metals of the Greek swords. ಅವನು ಸೀಸರ್ಗಳನ್ನ, ಸಿಸರ್ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ ಆ ಕತ್ರಿನ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ, ಆ ಸಿಸರ್ಗೆ ಈ ಕಂಪೇರ್ಸ್ ದ ಸಿಸರ್ ಟು ದ ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಟ್ರೋಜನ್ ವಾರ್. ಆ ಟ್ರೋಜನ್ ವಾರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ಗೆದ್ದಂತಹ ಯುದ್ಧ ಇದು ಅಂತ ಅದು ಸಿಸರ್ಗೆ ಕಂಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ. ಈ ಕಂಪೇರ್ ದ ಸಿಸರ್ ಟು ದ ಟ್ರೋಜನ್ ವಾರ್, swords that overcome the Trojans, and Belinda's fury was a tempestuous, creating lots of havoc, the fury and kind of a horror, as a rage of scornful virgins who lost the charms, like a virgins who lost the charms, like a virgins who lost the virginity. Anotara, she screamed, she lost that, she thinks that the charms completely vanished, and she's in agony, she's sobbing, screaming and crying. And Ariel wept bitterly and flew away. ಅವಾಗ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಆ ಏರಿಯಲ್ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, ಗೊಳೋ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳುತ್ತೆ. So please don't close the session, sir. Really very, we are, yeah. What is that, sir? And it's still in the session. Prakash, what happened? You're saying that, sir, please don't close the session, sir. Why? Because you come in the session still. Because still we have a time now. And after, of course, at 12:30 I have to stop because another teacher will be waiting for. I try to complete the entire thing in 10 minutes because we have 10 minutes left. We have 10 minutes left, but let's see. I try to complete within the 10 minutes because you're more canto. Otherwise, I can also take up a little more in the afternoon session possible. I don't think afternoon session is also a lengthy one. Let me see another 10 minutes. Try to wind up it. Okay. And what happened? So scornful virgins who have lost the charms, Ariel wept bitterly and flew away. Papa Ariel kuda eshalla kashta padta nodi. You know that it's a mock epical baruva ella ಒಂದು struggles ಗಳು ಇಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇವೆಲ್ಲ small trivial objects. And Ariel cried and he bitterly wept away. And Umbriel ಅಂತ ಒಂದೊಂದು melancholy gnome ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಒಂದು spirit ಬರುತ್ತೆ, took advantages of the human confusion and despair to fly down. Umbriel ಏನ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, ಒಂದು melancholy gnome ಏನ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, ಅದು it goes to the ಪಾತಾಳ ಅಂತ ಏನ್ ಕರಿತೀವಿ, a cave of spleen ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ, ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ. Took advantages of a human confusion and despair to fly down to the center of the earth to find the gloomy cave of spleen. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಕ್ವೀನ್ ಬರ್ತಾಳೆ, ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಕೇವ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ದ ಕೈಂಡ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಪಾತಾಳ ಅಂತೀವಲ್ಲ ನೋಡಿ, ದ ಅಂಡರ್ ವರ್ಲ್ಡ್, ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ ಅದು Umbriel. For what? To bring more power, to give a Belinda to scream, shout against all men, especially Lord Baron. So center of the earth to find the gloomy of cave of spleen, the queen of all bad tempers and the source of every detestable quality in the human being, including ill nature and affection. So Umbriel, she went down to the cave of spleen to bring some power, and Umbriel asked the queen to touch Belinda with the chagreen. The Umbriel requested the queen, Belinda na ondsala you touch with the charm and she'll get the power so that she can take the she will revenge about all these men anta ankodutte. And for he knew that if she was gloomy and melancholy, bad tempers would spread all over the world, and spleen granted Umbriel requests and collected in a bag horrible noises such as those uttered by female lungs and tongues. In a while she put tears and sorrows and grief, she gave both containers to Umbriel. So the moment Umbriel, I'll make it simplified, don't worry that the moment Umbriel goes to the cave of spleen below the earth, and with a bag full of what? He requested the queen of that cave and requesting, please, you give kind of power. And what she gives? She gives, a bag full of noises. Okay, request and collected in a bag horrible noises. Noises as those uttered by female lungs. For example, women are known to scold and screaming and shouting at people, isn't it? Men generally avoid, they do, but less in number. But whereas the female, they do that. So here, cave of spleen, she gave a lot of the abusive words, the bag full of abusive words to Umbriel. And what? And a lot of tongues, because if Belinda has a lot of lungs, she can even scold more to all these people. I mean, especially to Baron, because ಮಾತೆ ಸಾಕು ಒಬ್ಬ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿನ ಸಾಯಿಸೋಕೆ ಅನ್ನೋ ಒಂದು ವಿಚಾರದಲ್ಲಿ. So in a veil she put tears. A cave of spleen, she also put a lot of tears, because Belinda, she has to cry a lot and sorrows and grief, and she gave both containers to Umbriel. So all the quarrel, tears, and all that Umbriel carry from the cave of spleen, and he puts everything. It's, for example, this is a bag full of this is a water bottle, a bag full of lot of verbal abusive words, tears, and everything. If it's poured on Belinda's head, what happened? She became more powerful, and she can scream at Baron, and she take a revenge, because they're not using any kind of weapon here to kill each other. It's only through words, the verbal war. And Umbriel, he did that. He brought all kind of stuff, and Umbriel, with a container. So what happened when the gnome returned? When the Umbriel will return from the cave of spleen, what happened? Return to Belinda's world, and he looks at the Belinda's world completely in detestable state of mind, because she lost her mind. She thinks that she lost her chastity, and he found the girl disheveled and dejected. Dejected, and everything is left in the world. There is nothing left for me. Annotara Belinda, she's screaming and she's crying. And Baron, Umbriel, he brought all kind of a detestable things on, pouring on her head. He pouring the contents of the bag, magic bag, over her head. Words or tears or scolding words, he poured on the head of Belinda. And Umbriel caused Belinda wrath. The moment Umbriel poured everything on Belinda's head, Belinda, she became wrath. Wrath andre sikkabatte kopa bandubidutte. So he caused the wrath of Belinda to be magnified many times. And one of her friends, Telestrace anta bartare, fanned and flame of maiden's anger by telling her that her honor was a stake, and behind and a back she friends are talking about the rape of the log. Telestrace bandan martale, this is what happened. Everybody talking about you. Everybody talking about the hill about you. They all talking about that. The kind of gossiping about that you have lost your chastity and virginity. The Telestrace again, she flew. Again, she became wrath. So this is one thing. And Telestrace then went to her brother. Telestrace and martale, she's run towards a brother of Bridane. On Sir Plume anta. Sir Plume atra, Telestrace, he went over there. Sir Plume, he's a brother of Telestrace, and demanded that he should confront Lord Peter. Anna, oh, Sir Plume, will do me a favor. You go to Lord Peter and hats off. Standing, okay, you've been saying that. So what happened? The Telestrace, Telestrace, and she goes to her brother and saying that, brother, let me take some of the photos as a token of memory. So, Sir Plume, brother, will you just go on demand to Lord Peter? You should confront Lord Peter and secure the return to the precious log. Lord Peter hatra adana jagala madodru vapas tandukodu. Belinda adana later she keeps it here. At least she will be very happy further. Nodi ಎಷ್ಟು ಮಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಅಣಕಿಸಿ ಬರೆದಿರುವಂತಹ ಮಹಾಕಾವ್ಯ. ಇದು ಒಂದು mock epic, treating with the trifle subject matter. Trifle andre ಕ್ಷುಲ್ಲಕ ವಿಚಾರಗಳು, ಸಣ್ಣ ವಿಚಾರಗಳು. And what happened? What happened here? So Telestrace request her brother Sir Plume to go to Lord Peter and to get the lock back. And what happened? Sir Plume considered the whole episode much magnified from the trivial. Telestrace, you're going to magnify the whole thing. ಈ ಸಣ್ಣ ವಿಚಾರನ ದೊಡ್ಡ ವಿಚಾರ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಾ, ಮೇಕಿಂಗ್ ಎ ಮೌಂಟೇನ್ ಔಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಅ ಮೋಲ್ ಹಿಲ್. ಮೋಲ್ ಹಿಲ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸಣ್ಣದು ಒಂದು ವಿಚಾರ, ಅದನ್ನ ಇಷ್ಟಪಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಗ್ರ್ಯಾಂಡಿಯಸ್ ಆಗಿ ಮಾಡೋದಾ? ಜಿಜ್ ಫರ್ಗೆಟ್ Telestrace ಅಂತ ಸರ್ ಪ್ಲೂಮ್ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ, ತನ್ನ ತಂಗಿ ಹೇಳ್ತಾನೆ. And Sir Plume considers the whole episode much magnified from the trifle. It is just trifle issues. Okay, trifle issues. But he went to demand Belinda's law. He has to listen the words of her sister. Okay, Telestrace, I'll listen your word because you happen to be my sister. I'll go to Telestrace, I'll go to Lord Baron, and I certainly demand for the law. And Lord Peter refuses to give up his prize. No, never ever. This is a precious clock. I will never give it to anyone, because Belinda, she has never ever accepted my proposal. Then why should I give back to this clock? And he's adamant. He's totally adamant. He's never ever decided to give back to this prize. So I'll just stop here. The last one canto barutte because other teachers, Srikanth sir, will be waiting for my for you to take your class. So I should also respect to someone's class. So some of you asked me to continue, but I'm glad. But it is a 1 hour meant for me, and next it's at 12:30 almost. So now where did I stop? So here the Telestrius request of Brother Sir Plume to go to Lord Baron to collect back the cut off log. Collect to. Okay, thank you very much. You're saying you're eager to listen, but good. I'll come. I'll meet you in the noon session, possible. I mean, a noon session. I have a class between three to 4. I'll meet you there. And what happened? So what happened? So then, though he dejected at the sir, I mean the sister's words, but anyhow, you're my sister. But I think you have been making all silly issues, isn't it? You've been making it a grand issue, sort of a silly thing. But don't worry, I'll go to Lord Baron. I'll talk to him. I'll convince him. I collect the log back and I'll give it to your sister. Anta Telestrius, I mean, Law Sarpim Tana Tangige Heltana. Because Celestrius, she is the close aid of Belinda's circle. Because Tanna Galati suffer. See, look at the rape of the lock, how the poem is. It's a mock epic. And I want you to read a book by M.H. Abraham, The Glossary of Literary Terms, where mock epic ಬಗ್ಗೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಒಂದು structure definitions ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅದನ್ನ you please read the mock epic definitions and you read this poem again and you certainly understand. Okay, and now it's 12:30. And I leave the session because sir is awaiting. I'll see you in the noon session. Good luck to you people. Good luck to you.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. Coming to today's class, I'll be dealing with one more text from the same paper, that is paper 2, Shakespeare, William Shakespeare. You have a text called Merchant of Venice. You might have read it in your school days about this play. You might have read the gist of the play called The Merchant of Venice in your school days. Coming to this particular play, yesterday I dealt with Julius Caesar, which is a tragic play. Again, Merchant of Venice is not at all a tragic play. It's a romantic comedy. It's a romantic comedy. There is romance. There is comic. There are comic scenes, and no, this play was probably. They say that this play was written between 1596 to 98. Probably this play was written and enacted on stage probably between those 2 years, between 1596 to 1598, The Merchant of Venice. So where exactly is Venice located? You all know Venice is considered as the most beautiful city after Paris. Venice and Paris are the two eyes of the European civilization. They're considered as the best and the beautiful cities. Okay, they were considered also as the doors of European business and commerce, particularly Venice. Now, you might have seen in movies, okay, entire Venice is covered with the backwaters of Mediterranean Sea. Mediterranean Sea is located to the south of Italy, and Venice is facing that Mediterranean Sea. And the Merchant of Venice was very, very popular even during those times, during the times of William Shakespeare. And it was a city of business and commerce, as I told you. Again, it is facing the Mediterranean Sea, and the backwaters of the Mediterranean Sea has entered the entire town. And you can see the transportation system in Venice. It's like they use canoes, small boats to visit the other houses. Like Amsterdam and Venice, even Amsterdam in Sweden, sorry, in Norway, in Sweden or Norway. Again, even Amsterdam is also one of the beautiful city in Europe. Coming to again this particular text, look at the title, The Merchant of Venice. Is speaking about a merchant, a businessman who is located in Venice. Critics say that Venice, Shakespeare had not visited Venice, in his life, Shakespeare had not at all visited Venice in his life. That is what critics say. Uh, but still, how can he write a play on a character who hails from a city like Venice, though he had not visited personally? So how can he write a play on that on a gentleman from the city called Venice, though he is not aware of the geography of Venice? The reason behind it is like people say that Shakespeare had little knowledge about Venice, but he had heard a lot about Venice from the travelers from England who had visited Venice. The travelers, the businessmen who had visited the Venice, had spoken a lot. They used to communicate or narrate a lot about Venice with William Shakespeare. And the context of this play is very, very important. In England, and not only in England, and so many countries of Europe, in Europe, so many countries of Europe, particularly Christian community, uh, were a kind of they used to have a kind of anti-Semitism, like a kind of anti-Jewish attitude, and particularly England, a country like England had banished Jews for almost 300 years. By the time Shakespeare wrote this play, England had banned Jews for almost 300 years. This play is very, very important when it comes to a theme of love and friendship, theme of forgiveness, theme of hatredness, theme of forgiveness, hatredness. Okay, at the same time, the another important aspect of this play is Shakespeare has given a woman character the leading role. Portia, who is the female character, is the protagonist of this play. Though the play is titled after the merchant from Venice, that is Antonio, the entire play again, you can see Portia, who is taking the leading role in the entire play. So she comes to the mainstream again, mainstream. Like she is the one who dominates the entire play, dominates this entire play. So as I told you, England had banned Jews for almost 300 years. That is the reason probably William Shakespeare had acknowledged that Christians in England may like if Jews are made fun of. Like he felt that if in his play, if he uses or like if he uses some slangs, some orally abusive language against Jews, majority of the people, like that's Christians, Christian people may start Christians may like the criticism or the or the attack on the Jewish community. Probably that is the background. That is the political background is that the Jews religious background is that Jews were hated during that time by the Christians, and at the same time you can call this play as anti-racist, like anti-racist, because Jews are very much retreated. Like Jews are very much retreated. They are portrayed as cunning people, the cunning community, very, very selfish, self-centered, and cunning community, whereas Christians are portrayed as uh, forgiving people, loving people, and friendly people. But at the same time, one should not forget that he might be again. Other critics also feel that Jews again, Shakespeare through this play might be attacking the Christian community itself. Like he's attacking the overall attitude of the Christian community towards Jews. Probably that chance is also there. Like it all depends on the perception, the way you look at it. You look at this text. The way you read, the way you understand this text. As a Christian, you may look at it. You may look at it this text in a different way. As a Jew, your perception may totally change after reading this play. But still, as I told you, and Venice, as I told you, Venice was a rich city. That is the reason why he picks the character from that city called Venice. Venice was a rich city. and it was a center of political independence. There was political independence. Okay, people can raise their voice against the administration. That is what you mean by political independence. It was almost like democratic setup. There was political independence and relaxed morals. Relaxed morals. There was relaxed morals. At the same time, tolerance from people from different nations used to come to Venice to do business. To do business. At the same time, different communities, people from different communities, different religious sects visited Venice, and it was the hotspot of business, and that is the reason why. And it was at the same time very exotic, very rich, wealthy town, and that is the reason why uh, William Shakespeare names this play as again names this play with the associates this play with the town, associates this play with the town called Venice. He picks the character from the town called Venice. There is one more place called Belmont, which is an imaginary place, which is an imaginary place. If you but again, there is a city called Belmont in Italy, but that city is not it's not the one which Shakespeare speaks of in this play. Belmont, as I told you, is an imaginary setting, and it's a beautiful city, and it's a rich and it's a rich country. At the same time, it's a rich country, okay, which is located in the same province, in the same region, southern part of Europe. And Belmont, Portia is from Belmont. Antonio, Antonio, the rich business tradesman, he does trades. He sends ships across countries to do trade business. Antonio is the one who is called as the merchant of Venice. The entire story revolves around that. The entire plot of the story is named after a character called Antonio. Antonio. Why Antonio? Why does again Shakespeare picks Antonio as a protagonist of the play? Though you don't see him being so active till the end of the play. It is Portia who appears to be wittiest, very intelligent, wise, isn't it? And very dynamic, beautiful. And critics say, most of the critics say that if you the amateur the theater going like amateur theater artist, whoever has got the chance to perform the female role of Shakespearean women characters, the heroines of Shakespeare's. Again, if you ask a amateur theaterist to pick the role among Shakespeare heroines, critics say most of the female actors who do aspire or wish to perform the role of Portia, because Portia is she is a kind of character who is beautiful, charming, intelligent, spotless, and very intelligent, very beautiful. At the same time, you don't find any kind of negative image out of her character. You don't find any kind of negative image or negative traits in her behavior. Whereas Antonio stands as a true gentleman. He stands as a true gentleman in the entire Venetian city. People are aware of this tradesman called Antonio. They know that Antonio can help anybody at the time of any kind of situation. Like Antonio can lend money for poor people without any expectations. That is the reason why he's very popular. Though he's a businessman, a tradesman, a rich tradesman, but at the same time he's a good gentleman. He is very good at art. That is the reason why he is very popular. He is very humble, generous. Antonio is generous. He is very generous. He lends money to people without any expectation, without any return. He doesn't expect people to return the money also. If they are in need, he is ready to help them. So that is that kind of character. is that kind of character, Antonio. That is the reason why, probably why Shakespeare has named this play as The Merchant of Venice. That is the reason, because he has got all the noble qualities, except in the final act. Except in the final act, in the trial scene, Antonio asks the judge. When the judge asks Antonio what kind of punishment he can give to a man like Shylock, who is a Jew, Antonio, in fact, again doesn't demand any kind of physical punishment. Instead, he asks the judge to tell Shylock to convert to Christianity from Jewish religion. So that way, other than that particular incident where he demands the judge to ask Shylock to convert to Christianity, apart from that particular episode, you don't see anywhere in any part of the play, you don't see a single bad incident or sorry episode where you can witness the evil character or trait of of Antonio. Antonio is not at all portrayed as an evil character or as an evil personality. He's a true gentleman in the entire play. So as I told you, Antonio has got a closest friend called Bassanio. Bassanio, B-A-S-S-I-A, B-A-S-S-I, B-A-S-S-A-I-N-O, Bassanio. So Bassanio is the closest friend, whereas Bassanio is a spendthrift. He's a spendthrift. He is humorous, very, very humorous. At the same time, very, very romantic. He's very, very romantic, and you can call him as a Casanova type of character, who has got, who is very, you can call him as what? Flirt in nature. He's like flirt in nature. He flirts with women. Who? Bassanio. Whereas the only good thing about Bassanio is he is very, very honest, loyal, very, very loyal or honest to Antonio, because he has highest regard or respect for Antonio. The reason is Antonio loves Bassanio because Antonio has no other companion in the entire Venetian city other than Bassanio. Antonio is a rich man, but still he is melancholic. He is melancholic means he is alone, all alone in the world. The only person with whom he can depend, with whom he can share his friendship or love is Bassanio. That is the reason he has, like, it totally depends on Bassanio for a kind of emotional attachment they had. Both the friends had a kind of emotional attachment. That is the reason why Antonio depends on Bassanio in the play. He is very melancholic, alone. He's lonely character. He's a lonely character. He's a rich man, but at the same time, he's a rich man. Whereas Bassanio is a spendthrift. He's a spendthrift. He spends money like anything. He borrows money from his friend, carelessly spends it, and at the same time, he is a flirt. He's a flirt, a romantic guy. At the same time, he is humorous. Whereas Antonio is again not humorous. He is very, very disciplined, very, very generous. At the same time, he is very, very friendly in nature with Bassanio. He loves his friendship. And critics also feel that during that time, during Elizabethan era, there was a lot of talk about homosexuality. Homosexuality. That is the reason why he creates such two men characters who are very, very close to each other. So, in fact, but again, at one part of the play, at one stage of the play, Bassanio is ready to give the ring of Portia. He's ready to give the ring of Portia to save the skin of Antonio, because he was on the verge of he was supposed to be sent for imprisonment. Like, that is the reason why Bassanio, and that is the reason why critics feel that it's a kind of relationship almost which can be compared to homosexuals. Like, that is what the critics feel. But at that time, as I told you, during Elizabethan age, there was a lot of talk on homosexuality. But apart from that, you don't see any kind of any kind of homosexual scenes that are connected to homosexuality. But the thing is, that is the observation. So that is the observation of some critics, not all the critics. Okay, but they share deep bondage. They share deep bondage, deep friendship. That is the reason why the theme of friendship is another important aspect in this play. At the same time, as I told you, when it comes to gender equality, Shakespeare is exceptional here in this play because he attributes all the best qualities to a leading woman character called Portia. Leading woman character called Portia. All the best qualities that you find in a human being, this attribute is found in the character called Portia in this play. That is the reason why I told you almost all the amateur theatre female artists feel they always love to pick this character. If they are given the chance to pick the characters of the female heroines of Shakespearean plays, again, female characters of the heroines of Shakespearean plays, they certainly pick this character called Portia without any hesitancy or without any hesitation. They pick this character called Portia. That is what the critics feel because that is how genuinely made character. Like she is very much genuine or very much true to her art. She is a gem of a character, you can say. So as I told you, the Merchant of Venice opens with a scene where you can see both Antonio and I skip few pages. You can see that again a kind of friendship that they share. Antonio again is fully aware that his ships have gone across the world like to do the trade, to do business. He has sent his ships to do the trade or business. He has invested his money on those ships, okay, and he is expecting some return, some profit out of the trade. They have gone across the different parts of the world. But whereas this man Bassanio is he has come to meet Antonio. You can see that Bassanio wants to visit Belmont. Belmont is the place where Portia lives. She is the heiress of Belmont. She is the heiress because she has just lost her father. Her father has left with a will. According to that will, Portia has to do a trial of casket, like casket scene, casket trick. She has to again select her suitor through the casket scene. So two princes from Morocco and another prince from a state called Aragon. Okay, they again Aragon. They come to. It's like we call it as like Swayamvara's type of situation where, according to that will, one who picks the right casket. So there are three caskets which is filled with three different metals. So if one casket has got the gold coins, the other casket has got the silver coins, and the last casket has got the lead coins. But all the two suitors who come both the suitors who come from Aragon and Morocco, the Prince of Morocco and Aragon, both of them have failed. Yeah, they have failed in their attempt to choose the right casket, But she is very loyal. Who You should keep that in mind. She is a genuine Christian girl. She follows her father's will, her father's desire, her father's words. She is a loyal daughter to her father. So she sticks to her promise to her father that she is going to select her partner by testing them with the cascade scene or with the cascade episode. Okay, look at this. Look at this. Bassanio. He is visiting Antonio. He has visited Antonio's again palace. Antonio's home. You can see that villa. You can say. So Antonio, as I told you, is melancholic. Is very melancholic. He suffers from spiritual loneliness. He suffers from spiritual loneliness and finds emotional fulfillment in the friendship with Bassanio. This is very interesting. He finds emotional fulfillment with Bassanio, with the kind of friendship he has. But spiritually, he is lonely. Spiritually, he is lonely. He is very melancholic. But the other side, is emotionally very much attached to Bassanio. Bassanio, his closest friend. Whereas Bassanio, as I told you, Bassanio strikes us at once, at the very first sight, as being a spendthrift who lives much, much upon what? much much beyond, you can say, much beyond his means. This much beyond his means. He's a poor guy. Oh, Bassanio is a poor guy, but it totally depends on Antonio for his spendings. So you can see that he has come over there to meet Antonio. He needs some money so that he can visit Belmont. He can visit Belmont. He can try his luck. So that he wants to try his luck. He wants to win the heart of Portia, because secretly he has cherished the idea of marrying Portia and to be a rich man after marrying Portia, because he is fully aware that Portia is a rich heiress of Belmont, of a country called Belmont. So he feels that if he goes there and tries his luck, if he marries Portia, that means his life is settled. He's fully aware of it. So he says that he has come to his friend seeking some financial help. So there he comes. What does he say? He asks him, to you, Antonio. When he asks him, he feels shy because he owes him so much of money. He has borrowed money already in the past. So you can see there is shyness. He feels guilty. For not returning the money which he has borrowed in the past. But now look at this conversation that happens. Act 1, Scene 1. So there he says that he reveals, to you, Antonio, I owe the most in money and in love. So I owe the most, not only in money and also in love. And from your love, I have a warranty. From your love, I have a warranty to unburden all my plots and purposes, and how to get clear of all the debts I owe. So, not like as I told you, he is very much shy. He is guilty ridden. He feels inferior. He feels very, very ashamed of himself for asking money quite often from Antonio. Look at this guy, Antonio, who has no one to depend on. Like, he doesn't have any family member to depend on him. He leads a lonely life. He has a lot of money. He is all set to help his friend whenever he is in need. You look at this man. I pray you, good Bassanio, let me know it. Let me know it. And if it stand, as you yourself still do, within the eye of honor, be assured, within the eye of honor, be assured, my purse means my pocket money, whatever the money that I have, my person means my characteristic, my quality, my life, my person, my personality, my money, my richness, okay, my purse, my person, my extremist means whatever that is there in my life, the extremist, I am ready to take any kind of extreme step to help you. That is what he means. My purse, my love, or my personality, my extremist means lie all unlocked, to your occasions, and by telling that he is ready to lend him some money, But right now, the problem is right now Antonio doesn't have that much money to give him. Like Antonio, in fact, he is ready to help, but right now he has already invested money for his trade business, so he cannot give money right at that moment. But still, he wants to help him. So what he does, instead of that, instead of giving him money directly, since he doesn't have money right now, he asked Bassanio to borrow money from any of the money lender in the city called Venice. So he in fact tells him to borrow money from any of the money lender, so that he feels that once the ships are returned, once they come back, so I can pay the money, I can repay the money. So you take the money as credit. Try what my credit Try what my credit can in Venice do. That shall be racked even to the uttermost, even to the uttermost, to furnish thee to Belmont, to furnish thee to Belmont, to fair Portia, to fair Portia. Go presently, go presently inquire, and so will I, where money is, and I no question make, I no question make. I don't make any question. It's a old English. Okay, don't try to read it grammatically, but it's a old English, beautifully connoted, isn't it? Where money is, and I no question make. I don't make any question. I also try to get fetch money for you. At the same time, at the same time, at the same time, where money is, and I no question make to have it my trust or for my sake means borrow money from anybody, from any of the money lender whenever you want. So at the same time, I also try my luck to fetch you some money, to fetch you some money. So see, friends, if you have network problem, I can't help you for that. You can, if you again, I'm trying to like, I'm trying to speak or give a lecture with a loud voice, with a loud voice. If you can't hear, if you have a network problem, I can't help you. So I'm trying my best to deliver whatever the knowledge that I have on in this particular test, in this particular text. So as I told you, even in case again, he's ready to help it. So what happens? So what happens next? At the same time, you should not forget that Shylock is also fully aware that there is a man called Antonio, a true Christian who is ready to help any man who is in need. So any poor person, any poor character, any poor person. So there is a character, there is a man called Antonio in the city. So he is ready to help anybody in the city. So without any expectation, that is another important factor. Shylock is fully aware of that. But you can, at the same time, should not forget that Antonio in the past has heard the business of Shylock, has heard the business of Shylock by lending money for poor people without any expectations. Whereas this money lender, a professional money lender, there are again people like, even we have bankers in our India who confuse like who mortgage some jewelry, some paper documents related to land and property and lend money, isn't it? We have our own Marwadi system, Marwadis who lend money by mortgaging some gold, some paper documents related to property, isn't it? So in that way, in those times during Shakespearean time, during his era, there were people like it was Jews who were lending money, to people who are in need for interest. You should not forget that for interest. That was the business that they were doing. People borrow money for 2% interest, 3% interest, even for 5% interest, right? Banks also do give money for interest, isn't it? So for that they have to mortgage, they have to give something as surety to borrow money, right? So, but whereas this man, Shylock, lends money for interest, for with some expectations, by mortgaging jewelry, by mortgaging some documents. So he lends money. But whereas Antonio, a poor, generous, a rich, sorry, not poor, poor in heart, like, but he's very, very generous when it comes to a poor fellow. When it comes to love or emotions. But when it comes to richness, he is rich in art. He is rich in art. At the same time, he is rich when it comes to helping people. Rich when it comes to physical assets or property. So he is ready to anybody whomsoever comes to his door, to his threshold or vasalu. Mane vasli gare kundru threshold. So he is ready to help them. So he is such a type of guy, whereas whereas Shylock is different, isn't it? So you have Portia is also introduced. Portia is also introduced in Act 1, Scene 1. Portia is a vivacious girl. She is a vivacious girl who wants to marry, but her desires are hampered by her father's will. So her desires are hampered by her father's will. She wants to marry. She's a vivacious girl. but she has to choose the right partner. So she has to follow the will. She has to follow the will that has been again transferred by her father. So she has to stick to her promise by following the wishes of her father. So casket scene to marry someone by choosing the right casket is all fairy, okay, is all fancy and fairy, isn't it? It's all fancy and fairy, which can't happen in real life. Can you choose your right, again, life partner with the concept like Swayamvara? You can't choose your life partner with the concept of like Swayamvara that we used to have in our Puranas. In our Puranas, that is how Draupadi, Sita, again they got married by choosing the right partner by testing them, isn't it? Rama was tested with that Indra Dhanush, that Dhanush, okay, which we broke that Dhanush. That is what happened with Rama and Sita, and you have Draupadi and Arjuna marriage. How Arjuna again marries how Draupadi marries Arjuna with the Swayamvara. Like the Swayamvara system was very much there even in our Hindu Puranas, right? But this appears, it all appears fancy, isn't it? Fancy and fairy. Again, if you think about it, can you think of marrying someone with the concept like Swayamvara? It's highly impossible when it comes to real life. It comes to real life, but it is highly impossible. But she has to follow. She has to be loyal to her father. Whereas you have another character called Jessica. Jessica is the daughter. She is the daughter of Shylock. She is the daughter of Shylock, who loves a man called Lorenzo. Lorenzo is a servant. Lorenzo Gobbo is a servant who works with Shylock. She is in love with the servant of Shylock called Lorenzo. She loves him. At the same time, she elopes. She elopes with all the money and jewelry. You have Portia on one side, a loyal daughter, and Jessica on the other side, dishonest daughter. So, according to the story, you know what happens. Antonio goes there to borrow money. From not Antonio. Bassanio goes there to borrow money from Shylock. So Shylock is ready to give money. She is ready to give money, but on one condition. On one condition. What is that condition? So he has to sign a treaty. He has to sign a treaty, a deal. He has to sign a treaty. That means memorandum of understanding, MOU. You can call business terms. It comes to business terms. So according to that deal, he demands what? He demands for a pound of flesh. According to that bond, they sign a bond. A bond paper. A bond paper is put forth before Bassanio. He asks him. He is ready to help him with 3,000 ducats. 3,000 ducats. DUCATS. Ducats means that's a kind of currency that was there during that time. Okay, and he is ready to help him with 3,000 ducats. But the problem is he has to sign a bond. If in case Antonio fails to repay the money after 3 months, so he gives 3 months time. 3 months time to pay back the money. 3 months time to repay the money of those 3,000 ducats. At the same time, he has to sign a bond. What is the bond? Again, treaty, the deal. What is the treaty or deal again that you see in that bond? The treaty or the deal is this kindness. Look at the Shylock, Act 1 Scene 3, Shylock. This kindness will I show. Go with me to a notary. He's speaking about the notary lawyer. The notary lawyer that you see in the court. In the court, the notary. Go with me to a notary. I request you to come with me. Go with me to a notary. Seal me there. Your single bond. And in a merry spot. If you repay me not on such a day, in such a place, such sum or sums or as are expressed in the condition, let the forfeit be nominated for an equal pound of your fair flesh to be cut off and taken in what part of your body pleaseth me. So you should not forget that Antonio has also accompanied Bassanio. Antonio has also accompanied Bassanio to borrow money. He has come with Bassanio. So he asked them to come along with them to the notary office. Notary office. There he asked them to seal. So and also he tells. He also sorry. So he also tells them to to think if you are borrowing the money, you are borrowing some amount from me. So you have to return that the same amount on the same day after the gap of 3 months. After the gap of 3 months. So I'm ready to give you 3 months duration to repay the money. If you repay me not on such a day, if you don't repay the money on such a day, okay, in such a place, a dina, a samaya, such a sum, a hastu hana, okay, a hana, expressed in the condition, ಈ ಕಂಡೀಷನ್ ಈ ಬಾಂಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನ್ ಬರ್ದಿದೀವಿ ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಆ ಸಮಯ ಆ ದಿನ ಅಷ್ಟು ಹಣ ಆ ಸಮಯಕ್ಕೆ ನೀವು ರಿಟರ್ನ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ let the forfeit be nominated for an equal pound of your fair flesh. So according to the treaty, so I can what I can take the pound of flesh. I can take the pound of flesh, exact pound of flesh from any part of your fair or beautiful fair ಪಳ ಪಳ ಹೊಳಿತಾ ನಿನ್ನ ಸುಂದರವಾದ ದೇಹ ಏನಿದೆ ಆ ದೇಹದಿಂದ ಯಾವುದೇ ಭಾಗದಿಂದ ಒಂದು ಪೌಂಡ್ ತೂಕ ಬಾಳುವ ಒಂದು ಮಾಂಸವನ್ನ ನಾನು ತಗೊಳ್ಳುವ ಒಂದು ಅಧಿಕಾರ ನನಗಿದೆ. If you fail to repay the money according to the treaty, if you fail to repay the money, some money on that particular day, so this is what happens. I'll be ready to take a pound of flesh from your fair flesh to be cut off and taken in what part of your body pleaseth me. Pleaseth me means ನನಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಖುಷಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೋ, pleases me means pleases me. So wherever whichever the part of your body is, so ನನಗೆ ಯಾವ್ದು ಇಷ್ಟ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಆ ಜಾಗದಿಂದ ಆ ನಿನ್ನ ಬಿಳಿಯ ದೇಹದಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಮಾಂಸವನ್ನ 1 ಪೌಂಡ್ ಮಾಂಸವನ್ನ ತೆಗೊಳ್ಳೋ ಅಧಿಕಾರ ನನಗಿದೆ. Antonio says, look at the response of Antonio. Content in faith. Content means I'm satisfied. Content. I'm satisfied with the deal. Treaty or deal. Okay. Content in faith. I'll seal to such a bond and say there is much kindness in the Jew. Okay. He's again, as a Christian he speaks, like there is kindness in a Jew. That means Jews are not kind. So there is a tradition, there is a history. According to Antonio, there is a saying that people speak a lot about the ill-mannered behavior or the characteristics, the bad qualities of Jews. So this is one of the bad qualities. So he feels that even I do find it strange and surprised to see there is kindness even in a Jew. There is kindness ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಜೀವಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂಡ ಒಂದು ಹೃದಯವಂತಿಕೆ, ಒಂದು ತಾಳ್ಮೆ, ಒಂದು ಪ್ರೀತಿ, ಒಂದು ಇದು ವಿಶ್ವ ಏನು ಒಂದು ಮೃದು ಸ್ವಭಾವ, ಇದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ನೋಡಿ ನನಗೆ ಖುಷಿ ಆಯ್ತು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಕಂಟೆಂಟ್ ಇನ್ ಫೇತ್, ಐ seal to such a bond and say there is much kindness in the Jew. There is much kindness in the Jew. He's speaking about the entire Jews race, okay? The entire Jews race, okay? Entire Jewish community, okay? And Jews are the people who are expecting God. Now, almost all the religions across the world have witnessed God. They have seen God in the form of prophets, in the form of prophets. Pravadi Muhammaduru, Islamige, Jesus Christ, Christianity. ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಧರ್ಮಕ್ಕೆ ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಅವತಾರ ಪುರುಷರು, ಧರ್ಮ ಪ್ರವರ್ತಕರು ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾರೆ. But whereas when it comes to Jewish religion, they still expect God to arrive. Like they are expecting God to come. Okay, that is what the theological aspect of Jews are. Jews is like they expect God to come. Like they don't, for them God has not yet appeared, has not yet existed, or not yet come to You can see that uh, Shylock's legalistic shrewdness is on display here, in contrast with Antonio's generous attitude. So you can see the legalistic shrewdness. He is very, very shrewd. SHREWD. Very, very shrewd when it comes to doing business. Who? Shylock. Like Marwadis. You have Marwadis. Like they are very, very shrewd when it comes to business. Like Kakas, Marwadis. They are known for business. Like particularly Marwadi community, they do bankers. They call us bankers, pawn brokers. Okay, they lend money by mortgaging something. As I told you, this Shylock is very, very shrewd when it comes to legalistic aspects. Shylock is legalistically shrewd at the same time very, very shrewd when it comes to legalities. On the other hand, you have Antonio, who is very, very generous, very, very generous in his attitude. So Act 2, we come to know about the Prince of Morocco. So he has come there to try his luck. So he has come there to try his luck. Okay, he tries his luck. Suitor, he has come as a suitor. Suitor, Suitar, suitor. But he fails in his attempt to choose the exact, the proper, the correct casket. Okay, Prince of Morocco, and also does not suit Portia. So second act, you can see the cascade scene and some again princes from Turkey, Sultan Sulaiman, Morocco. They all try their lucks, but they all fail in their luck to choose the proper casket. But ultimately, it is Bassanio who comes there. Bassanio enters, and Bassanio he also tries his luck, and he chooses the right casket, the casket filled with lead coins. The casket filled with lead coins. He chooses the right casket, and you can see, and Jessica, this Portia also falls in love with Bassanio. Portia also falls in love with Bassanio. It's almost like she was expecting Bassanio. When he enters, she falls in love with him immediately, and you can see that. And in fact, Portia also falls in love with Bassanio, and she exchanges a ring with him. Okay, it's almost like getting engaged. This scene shows that the tender side of Shylock. There is Act 2, Scene 5. He is a trusting father. He trusts his daughter a lot, a loving father. Okay, a trusting father. You know what happens in the story? Bassanio invites Shylock for dinner. Invites Shylock for dinner. So whereas Jessica, who is already in love with Lorenzo, is planning or preparing to elope with him. So she picks all the property, documents, or jewels, or money, whatever that he has kept in his almirah. Okay, but Jessica proves disloyal, isn't it? In comparison with Portia, Jessica proves disloyal. She elopes with Lorenzo. Okay, Lorenzo later becomes the servant of Bassanio. Later on, he becomes the servant of Bassanio. He also elopes with Lorenzo, and Jessica elope with some money, and they reach Belmont, and you can see that Jessica and this Lorenzo becomes the servant of Bassanio. So you can see the Shakespeare's dramatic skill in Act 2, Scene 6. Scene 6 is where with again Jessica and Portia, you can see the cheating daughter and the honest loyal daughter. Hostile Christian society forces his daughter to cheat. Another important aspect is, when the minorities cannot dominate the majorities. So minorities like if certain category of people of some community, if they are considered as minorities, naturally majorities will have an upper hand, and we try to molest them, we try to convert them, physically harass them, isn't it? It happens in every country where minorities are ill-treated by the majority of the people. So every country has got minorities. The same way in Venice, During that particular time, Jews were the minorities, and you see, Jessica also converts herself to Christianity. She also converts herself to Christianity in order to marry Lorenzo. You can see the hostile condition in which the minorities they are helpless. They are living in hostile condition. They are helpless, and they are bound to follow the dictats of the majorities. So it happens. It is quite obvious, isn't it? And uh, let us see what happens. But Bassanio also tells about borrowing money. Tells Portia about borrowing money from Shylock. He tells her that he has borrowed money from Shylock to reach Vermont. So it is Antonio who has pledged his body, a pound of flesh from his body, in order to help him. He narrates everything to Portia. So in that way, he is true to his friendship. Like he wants some kind of financial help, probably to help his friend who has mortgaged his body, a part of his body, right? So let us see what happens there. You know, Jews are called as dogs here. Jews are treated as dogs. They are used like they are abused as dogs, as like you see in Act 2, Scene 8. A character called Salanio calls Jews as dogs, as the dog Jew did utter in the streets. My daughter, oh my ducats, oh my daughter, fight with a Christian. Okay, oh my Christian ducats. Okay, so you can see that uh, Portia and what happens in the next scene. Sorry, next act, that is Act 3. Shakespeare Shylock is not a monster of wickedness, but a credible human being. So Shakespeare in Act 3 reveals the true nature of Shylock. He might be a businessman, he might be shrewd in nature, but he is not a monster of wickedness. There is humanity, human values, scope for human values in Shylock's character. You can see that he in scene 1 act 3, when he speaks about his daughter, okay, with Salarino, he shares that how what kind of character he is, and he speaks about Christianity, okay, uh, and he also speaks about declaring a war. Every word and phrase crackles with aggression, declaration of war, revenge for the injury, for the kind of psychological injury committed on him by Lorenzo, and also Jessica. By marrying Jessica, Jessica has married. He cheated her father. You know. Let us see what happens in the fourth act. The hypocrisy of Christians is revealed here. Okay, Portia somehow wants to help Bassanio. So after 3 months, when Antonio fails to uh, repay the amount, that is the 3,000 ducats, Shylock lodges a case against Antonio and Bassanio before the Duke, before the Duke of Venice, and the Duke of Venice, in fact, asks his soldiers to surrender, to arrest Antonio. Antonio is kept in prison, and again at the same time, Duke of Venice also sends a messenger to bring Shylock to have a fair trial. They want, again, Duke of Venice wants to give a fair justice. That is the reason. In order to give a fair trial, he asks Shylock. In fact, he sends a messenger to fetch Shylock. So you can see that. But Portia, as I told you, she is an intelligent character. The heroine of the casket story, that is Portia, becomes the savior of Antony. Becomes the savior of Antonio, and the Bond story. So she comes in the in disguise. She comes in disguise, okay, with a name or as again with a pseudonym, with a pseudonym called Balthazar. Balthazar is a name pseudonym which she gives herself. Okay, which again with that name she comes to Venice in disguise as a lawyer. As a lawyer, she wants to help somehow to Antonio. She wants to help him somehow, but this particular disguise episode is not fully known to Bassanio. Bassanio is completely ignorant, innocent. He's not at all aware that Portia is coming in the guise of a lawyer named Balthazar. So she comes there in the name in the name of a lawyer called Balthazar. She wants to help Antonio. Look at the way she again. She engages herself in the court scene, the famous trial scene. Very important. They may ask you a question. They may ask you a question about the famous trial scene where you can see the display of witty quality or the intelligence or means a kind of the true character of Portia, you can say, means all kind of intelligent woman she is. Like it is all displayed in that trial scene. The theme of mercy versus strict justice is fully developed. The hypocrisy of Christians is revealed in the trial scene. The hypocrisy of Christians is revealed in the trial scene. They expect mercy from others, but in their own turn show very little mercy, as is shown in the treatment meted out to Shylock. What happens in this particular trial scene? Portia, in fact, look at this famous uh, again famous lines from the text, Act 4, Scene 1. This is what Portia tells as a lawyer in front of the Duke, who is behaving, who is playing a role, playing a role of judge, judge. Okay, Duke of Venice is the judge there. So what kind of justice he delivers? Let us see later. Look at Portia. She says, in fact, carry a little. There is something else. This bond doth give thee here no dot of blood. The words expressly are a pound of flesh. Take thy bond, take the bone, thy a pound of flesh, but in the cutting it, if thou dost shed one drop of Christian blood, thy lands and goods are by the laws of Venice confiscate unto the state of Venice. She's very smart. So she is very smart, intelligent, as I told you. So she has come in the disguise of a lawyer. So this is how she engages in her again in the case. This is how she argues in the court. See, you have every right to fetch a pound of flesh from Antonio's body. But one thing is, you should make sure that you should not shed a single drop of blood from a Christian body. From a Christian body, you can see that again in that trial. They speak about Christianity. They speak means somehow they want to corner Shylock here. That is the reason why I told this play is anti-Semicist, Semicist. At the same time, probably Shakespeare is trying to figure out the follies of Christianity. So Christians are the people who are considered as the majority of the people in Europe, right? Christians are the majority of the people who live in Europe. Probably there are some good intentions behind behind using such words of religion, such words which are associated with racism, You can see that she uses the phrase called Christian blood. Portia uses the phrase called Christian blood. You have every right to take a pound of flesh from Antonio's body, but make sure that while taking a pound of flesh, you don't spill or shed a drop of blood from the Christian body, or Christian blood, isn't it? Thy lands and goods are by. If you do it so, While taking a pound of flesh, if you by chance, if you by chance shed a single Christian blood on the ground, remember that thy property means your land, your property, your goods are by the laws of Venice, confiscate onto the state of Venice. Confiscate onto the state of Venice means the state of Venice, the state of Venice has the right to confiscate your land, your property, everything that is associated to you can be confiscated by the laws of Venice. The government of Venice can confiscate it. So what happens in the trial? This Shylock feels ashamed because he feels cheated. He feels cheated because according to that trial, according to Portia's argument, he cannot take a pound of flesh from Antonio's body without shedding a drop of blood on the floor, right? So in that way, Shylock feels he is defeated. He is defeated by Portia, by her intelligence or smartness. So what happens? So he fails in that trial, and Shylock feels cheated. Shylock feels cheated, and Antonio has been released. Antonio has been released, and Bassanio feels elated, so happy. So it's by seeing his friend Antonio being released, but somehow he has to give some fee. He has to give some fee to Balthazar, to Portia, who has come in the guise of Balthazar, a pseudo name, a pseudo lawyer, isn't it? But when Portia asks him to give him that ring which he has in his finger, engaged ring, Portia here she is trying to test Bassanio, so whether his love is genuine or not. But Bassanio, in order to protect his friendship, in order to save his friend's skin, in order to save his friend from the clutches of death, what he does, because he knows that this case has been very neatly argued, very well argued by Balthazar, means Portia, by Portia, but she is not aware that Balthazar is none other than Portia herself. But when the demand comes to give the ring, the engagement ring, Bassanio, with helplessness, like he was helpless, but helpless, what he does, he is ready to hand over the ring to Portia to save his friend. So, but Portia receives the ring and reaches Belmont. But again, Bassanio, after saving Antonio, comes back once again to Belmont. But Portia wants to know where exactly is the ring which she had given at the time of engagement. But Bassanio fails to fails to provide the ring or to give the ring. So you can see that Portia at last she could not control. She cannot control uh, what the secret. She cannot hide the secret for long. She cannot hide the secret for long. She reveals that she is the one who came in the guise of Balthazar, a pseudo lawyer, for again in the name of a pseudo name for Balthazar, and in that way she saved Antonio from Shylock. And at the same time, when the Duke asked Antonio to what means asked him when he asked him what to do with what to do with Shylock, Antonio in fact asks the Duke to tell Shylock to convert to Christianity. Almost all the property that has been confiscated from Shylock is given to Antonio, but Antonio is not ready to keep it with him. What he does, he shares that property of Shylock with Lorenzo and Jessica. Jessica, the beautiful daughter of Shylock, has married Lorenzo, who is a faithful servant to Bassanio. So what he does, Antonio, who had got the property of Shylock from the legal proceedings, what he does, he gives it with, he shares that property with Lorenzo and Jessica, and in the end, all are again Act 5. You can see in Act 5 the romantic moonlight beauty and the poetic atmosphere is perfectly in harmony with the mood of the lovers and forms a suitable background to their happy reunion, reunion. So Shakespeare creates such an atmosphere where you see two lovers are reuniting, and the reunion is made in such an urban environment where everything appears beautiful. The moonlit beauty and also the atmosphere, it's in perfect harmony. It's in perfect harmony with Bassanio to marry or to reunite with Portia. And you can see the happy conclusion. The play ends with a happy conclusion to enable the audience to live with a happy taste of what taste in mouth, to live with a happy taste in mouth. So Shakespeare ends the play with a happy note. Nobody dies. Nobody meets with a tragic ending. Even Shylock is is forgiven. Is forgiven. Everything ends with a happy note. And Shakespeare's world of comedy. Again, the bottom line after reading this play, you can come to the conclusion that Shakespeare's world of comedy does not lose touch with life and nature. Does not lose touch with life and nature. Okay, there is real happiness in every character. Every character leave the stage with a happy note, and even the audience leave the theater with the taste of happiness in their mouth. Okay, and that's how the play ends. I hope I'm able to give the justice for this text, and I hope you have understood the context, the background, the important issues that you can have to focus in the text, and the important characters, important quotations that you have to focus. You have to use those quotations, textual lines in your answer to make your answer, to strengthen your answer, to strengthen your argument. You have to use the textual lines, the textual quotations, and thank you one and all. I'll come up with a different text in the noon session. I've got one more class after 4 p.m. So I'll meet you once again at 4 p.m. Thank you one and all. I hope I could reach most of the students. Some students commenting that again I'm not audible, but still I think most of the students are able to match up with or catch up with my lecture, isn't it? So thank you one and all. Meet you once again in the new session.